Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto permanently opens the 8 Celestial Gates chunin exam. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by TAGGERUNG999 and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Hyubi makes an offer. Naruto and his team, or what was left of it, jumped from tree to tree. They had been sent on a mission to Wave Country. Inari, Tsunami, and Tazuna were to be escorted to Konoha. Naruto was far ahead of the group, he had not seen them for a long time now and he was impatient. It had only been 3 months since Sasuke had left for the Sound. Tsunade had noticed that the blonde-haired, blue-eyed genin was not his usual loud obnoxious elf. She knew it was because his best friend had left. She did not know exactly what had happened in the Valley of the End, but it was obvious to her that Sasuke had tried to kill the boy. She suspected this was the cause of her brother's current mood. That was when she had gotten a letter from Wave Country requesting Team 7 as an escort for a group of people that would be traveling to Konoha. A while ago she had read that these people were part of a mission that Naruto had completed and the country even had a bridge named after him. Thus she decided to send him, Sakura and Kakashi to bring them to Konoha. But if she had known what would happen on that mission, she would have burned the request then and there. Several hours after they had left, Kakashi called a halt. It was getting dark and they would not be able to see in a few minuets. That would be no problem for most shinobi, but they had been running all day and were exhausted. Besides, this wasn't an urgent mission, they could take their time, as much as Naruto didn't want to. They had just finished setting up their camp when a shuriken whirred out of the darkness, just barely missing Kakashi. A small cut opened up on his shoulder and he quickly got into a defensive position. Naruto, Sakura. Move. But he need not have said anything because they were already ready. The laugh sounded from the surrounding forest. Foolish genin. Coming out here for a fake mission. I will obtain the Manjikyu and kill my brother, but to do that I must kill you all. Starting with you dope. Sasuke threw several kunai at his former teammate before disappearing back into the night. Show yourself team. Naruto yelled as he created 100 bunchins. If you won't come out, I'll drag you out. The bunchins began to scatter, only to be destroyed by the rain of kunai and shuriken from the missing nin. As the last bunchin was destroyed, Sasuke stepped from the darkness, followed by 2 others. All of them were wearing sound forehead protectors. Die dope. Sasuke yelled as he launched himself at Naruto, slashing at him with a sword that he had pulled from behind him. A blade that was oddly familiar. Kusanagi, Orochimaru's blade. The same sword that had been used against the old man and Tsunade Bachan. Naruto would never forget that blade, nor would he forgive anyone who used the cursed blade. Naruto somehow managed to dodge the attack. I know that you want to kill your brother, but Orochimaru won't just give you the power to do it. Don't you know that he is going to take your body in 3 years? Naruto jumped at Sasuke, holding his kunai like a dagger. Sasuke deftly sidesteps. I don't care if I have to sell my soul to the devil himself. So long as I have the power to kill my brother. As the blonde passed by he landed a hard blow to the middle of the boy's back. Is that all you've got? Pitiful. But then again, you never were a challenge. Sakura just stood dumbfounded on the sidelines, watching in horror as the one she thought she loved attacked her teammate. Sure, he had left them, but that was only because of that weird mark that the snake man had put on him. He would never try to kill Naruto, would he? Then again, they had always fought, and the last time she had seen them, it did look as if Sasuke wanted to kill Naruto just as much as that other guy. Sakura still doesn't know that Sasuke wants to kill his brother. Kakashi rushed over to help Naruto, who was just getting up. The Jounin pushes up his hit IH revealing his Sharingan. Naruto, when you have enough energy, use the Rasengan. But make it quick, he is much stronger than when he left. With that he rushed to keep the raven-haired boy distracted. He knew that he would not be able to hold him off for long, so he started with his special move, Chidori. He yelled out as a mass of blue sparks gathered in his hand, emitting a sound like 1,000 birds screaming, hence its name. Behind him, Naruto made several bunchin to help him, while Naruto powered up his attack. Sasuke ended up fighting the clones. Every time he took one down, 3 more seemed to pop up in its place. Well, it wasn't really a fight. Even though more and more clones popped up, Sasuke took them down with such ease that it seemed impossible. Then Sasuke yawned. Is this all he has? He should have gotten a lot stronger than this. Oh well. Time to finish up. He activated his Sharingan and destroyed all of the clones before they could multiply again. That was pitiful, Naruto. You haven't improved since the last time we met. Shame, I was hoping for a challenge. Behind him Kakashi stabbed his Chidori at his back. Sasuke deftly broke Kakashi's wrist, forcing him to release the jutsu. Then he formed the Chidori and slammed it into Kakashi, hoping to kill him, but missed. Kakashi only had a small wound in his side. Sasuke's followers just watched, trying to learn as much as possible from Orochimaru's favorite. There was no way that he would lose. The Otakage himself had trained him. So these leaf nin should be a piece of cake. Sasuke then made a chidori in both hands before bringing them together, doubling its attack power. Kakashi's eye widened, that's not possible. Even I can't do that. And I created the technique. Sasuke smirked, it's one of the things Orochimaru-sama taught me. That was the last thing Naruto heard before nothingness closed around him. He had attempted to sneak up on his opponent and hit him with the Rasengan. He had almost made it when Sasuke plunged his twin thousand birds through his chest, barely missing his heart. Naruto fell to the ground, to all appearances, dead. Kakashi attempted to get over to his fallen comrade, but was stopped by his wounds and Sasuke's teammates. Sakura had fainted when she had seen Naruto die. This wasn't the Sasuke she had known. She had not respect for this Sasuke. How could she not have seen this coming? Why had she ever liked him? When she woke up, if she woke up at all, she would give him a good beating. Hell yeah. There's no escape for either of you now. Both of you will die, just as he did. Sasuke grins evilly while pointing at the dead boy. While his back was turned, Kakashi had been doing a set of hand seals. He just hoped he finished before Sasuke noticed. Sasuke turned around as he finished the last seal. Both he and Sakura disappeared. He could not bring Naruto's body because he was low on chakra. Oh well. They weren't worth my time. Sasuke growled. Inwardly he was seething. He had wanted to kill this so badly. One of his subordinates, the one named Tala, approached Sasuke. Sasuke-sama, what should we do with the body? Sasuke waved him off, you could leave the body to rot for all I care. We need to get back to Itagakure. Orochimaru wanted us back today, and we don't have much time left. Sasuke turned and left, not looking back. He knew that his team would follow. After Sasuke killed him, Naruto found himself within his mind. To any who didn't know better, it looked like a sewer. One that should have been condemned long ago. The walls were crumbling, non-existent in places. Moss grew on the stones that remained, and an inch-deep pool of dirty water ran along the ground. All of this was because of the villagers. Their constant hate-filled glares, calling him demon, hunting him down just to hurt him. Most would have killed themselves or ran away long ago if it had happened to them. But Naruto was made of sterner stuff, so he survived. He turned their hate into motivation. He would never give up. The low growling was heard coming from further down the channel. Stupid fox. Was all Naruto said while walking towards the growling. Long ago, before Naruto had been born, a vicious demon had attacked the village of Konoha. It was the nine-tailed fox, Kyuubi. Its tails caused massive earthquakes and tsunamis. Many ninja had died trying to protect their village, but to no avail. That is until the greatest of the Hokage, the fourth, sacrificed his life to defeat the mighty demon. He was not able to kill it, so he sealed it inside of a newborn child, its umbilical cord freshly cut. His dying wish was that the child be seen as a hero, but it was not to be. The villagers saw the demon and not the child. Most wanted it killed then and there, and it was only because of the third Hokage that the child survived. He made a law stating that no one was to mention the demon. Those who disobeyed were punished severely, but it did not stop the adults from passing their hate on to their children. Thus the vessel of the Kyuubi grew up being hated and shunned. Currently the nine-tailed fox was growling at the boy that stood before him. He couldn't harm the kid, even if he had wanted to. When he had been sealed, his mind and soul had been kept away from the kid. When the boy entered his mind, the Kyuubi was imprisoned behind a large rusty gate that went from one end of the boy's mindscape to the other. The talisman with the word seal was what held the gates closed, and no matter how hard he tried to break it, he always failed. He really did like the kid, but he was the nine-tailed demon lord, and she had an image to keep. Boy. Brat. What did you think you were doing? I was fighting Sasuke. Stupid fox. Well, you sure did a good job of it. Kyuubi yelled. He punched a hole right above your heart. And now we're both dying. Naruto flinched before yelling, I can't die yet. I still have to become the Hokage. Well, I guess that will never happen. We are dying and there is nothing that I can do to stop it. It was a small lie, but it was to help the kid. In any other situation the boy would not agree to what he was about to propose. Wait, we're dying. I thought that when I died you'd be set free. I can't get out, kid. Our life forces are bound to each other. If you die, well, so do I. And I am not ready to do that just yet. I have a plan that may let us live. Huh? What's the plan? But didn't you say that there was nothing you could do to stop it? Yes, I did. And there is nothing that I can do to stop it, by myself that is. This would require both of us. And it is the only option if either of us wish to survive. So what is it? He was getting impatient. We fuse. I become you and you become me. Our bodies, minds, souls, memories, and chakra will become one. There will be nothing that separates us. This may work, but then again, it might not. Only a few beings have done this, and I don't know what became of them. If it is possible it will work. If not, well then, there's nothing we can do about it and we die. Naruto looks at the Kyuubi with an odd expression. You'd be willing to become human in order to stay alive? No, I wouldn't. There are many things that will happen. And there is also a cost. And they are. Meanwhile, in the center of the continent, something is awakening. Deep below the Earth's surface, there is a cave. Its walls covered in ice. Suspended in the center of the room, hovering above the ground, touching nothing, is a bluish-green gem. A very large gem at that. It is a yard wide and 3 tall. Within it there is a shadow, what manner of being it is, none can tell. On the white marble floor, the only surface, besides the gem, which was not covered in ice, was a complex set of runes. They formed a series of circles that intertwined with each other. Outside of the circles were the symbols of every ninja village that was in, or ever was or would be, in existence. The gem floated in the center of all these. Waiting for the right time. A time that was soon coming. A time when he would truly be needed. Cost of life fusion. I won't and never would be willing to become human. They are far too weak. Don't take offense to that, kid, you weren't completely human to begin with. Because of me you were at least part demon, even if you were 100 times more human. All the fusion will do is complete the process. You will become all demon, though I don't know what rank you will be. The real cost of the fusion will be your past. No one would know who you were, even if they did they would not recognize you. But you could always use a henge if you don't like what you look like, that's fine. I wasn't accepted in Konoha anyway. I don't really care if they never recognize me again. They all saw me as you, a demon. Only Iruka-sensei, Tsunade-bachan, and Hiro-senin really liked me. The old man Hokage did too, but he died. He frowned at that memory. No one else cared. It would be nice to start over without anyone recognizing me or knowing what I am. Kyuubi grins evilly, so you accept. It wasn't a question, but Naruto answered anyway. Of course. Very well, to do this I will have to teach you a long-forgotten and forbidden jutsu. Naruto's ears perked up at the word jutsu. It was forbidden because it turned the human who performed it into a low-level demon. Or it would merge 2 entities together. Because I am in you, you are considered a hanyu, a half-demon. So the villagers weren't completely wrong about me. He said angrily. Rat. Didn't you hear me earlier? You were far more human than you were demon. Stupid ninja. I should have killed more. If you want, you can get revenge later, but for now don't interrupt me. Naruto cringed at the volume of the last bit and decided to keep quiet. As I was saying, because you are already a half-demon you will not turn into a normal demon. I am one of the 4 demon lords, as well as the strongest of the tailed lords. Most likely you will take on my titles and powers. We will probably be stronger than I was before I was sealed. Anyway, it will be up to you to decide what you want to do with the power. You could pretend to be human and help the little rats. Kyuubi still had no love for most humans. This was only reinforced by what she had seen them do to Naruto. Or she continued, you could continue what I started and destroy them all. Kyuubi smiled at the memory of all the villagers fleeing from her, screaming in fear. In our case, this jutsu will do the second stage fusion. It will take our 2 essences and turn them into one, instead of just giving one of us the other's power and control, leaving one weak, useless, and angry. If a normal human did this it would permanently open the 8 celestial gates, which would most likely destroy the human's mind and body, one reason why it was forbidden. For us it will just fuse us without any further damage, we will them have 16 gates that we can open. That is one thing that this jutsu won't merge, but you will be able to open them easier and get more power from each one. Your inner coils will be completely different as well, meaning that you will have to relearn how to use your chakra. You will still know all of your jutsu as well as mine, you will just have to rework how to use them. That's fine. Naruto scrunches his eyes up in thought. How come people didn't use this jutsu if it made them really powerful? Most people that I know wouldn't care that it was forbidden or that it might kill them. So you can think. That is actually a good question. The jutsu is extremely long. It takes 3 hours to perform and is very noticeable during the last 30 minuets. It can't be felt but it is easily seen and everyone knew what it looked like. If anyone was seen doing it they were killed on the spot. No one wanted anyone else to have that much power. Another thing that they could do was stop the sequence. Once you start it you can't stop or you will die. I don't know the jutsu. How can you teach it to me if that means that you die? Kid, you really are an idiot. I'm not going to teach it to you. I'm going to give you the memory knowledge of how to do it. Demons are born with this knowledge, just in case something like this happens. Kyuubi touches Naruto's forehead with one of her tails. Flash, Naruto's eyes widen, we both have to do it. Yes brat. We both have to do it. That way we fuse. If one of us didn't, one of us would cease to exist and the fusion would be incomplete, weakened. I wouldn't care if it were you, but I won't take the chance that it could be me. She was still acting like she didn't like the kid. She really knew which would disappear. The one who didn't do the seals would disappear and she didn't want that to happen to her kid, not again. We will get to that later, I'm doing this so that I can continue to exist, as well as you. We may become one, but then both us would still be alive, in a way, even if it is as one being. Can we do it here or do I have to do it with my real body? Yes, he knew where he was. Because you can enter your own mind to talk to me, you can do it here. Both of them, let's go. Naruto begins with the hand seals, while Kyuubi starts the demon seals, demon version of hand seals. 2 hours and 30 minutes later, Naruto's body began to glow with an unearthly light. Blue and red chakra poured out from him as all 8 of his celestial gates and Kyuubi's demonic gates are thrown wide open. Most people can't stand more than a minuet with all 8 gates open before dying, but because of Kyuubi's healing factor, it did relatively little damage. The chakra begins to take the shape of 2 bodies, one of blue light and the other of red. They were the souls of the demon and the soon-to-be. The red was the image of the 9-tailed fox, tails swishing behind her as if they had minds of their own, and the other was Naruto, chakra dancing in the air like fire. Both spirits were still doing seals. The body below the spirits flashed once before turning into dust and sinking into the earth. After another 20 minutes, an intricate circle of pure energy formed below the souls. Are you ready, kid? Of course. Naruto said, giving his famous fox grin. As the last seals were being formed, the circle grew brighter, blotting out the chakra bodies with its brilliance. The last seals. Ninjin, Kitsune, and Fusion were formed. That means human-fox fusion, from deep within the earth, shot the pure energy of the earth soul as it recognized what was about to happen. It burst through the circle on the ground and shot hundreds of meters into the air. The blue and red chakras were caught up in it as the earth wove them together as one. The kanji for all of the elements were formed on the wall of the pillar of light as well as on the ground around it as they recognized a fusion and lent their help to it. 3 helped out more than the others. Why will be explained later. After 2 minutes of energy pouring out from the very fabric of reality, think about it, every element in the earth was helping with this. The pillar began to shrink in both height and width until it took the form of a body. A small amount of chakra still lingered around for a moment before wrapping around the body and forming 9 tails. The moment the tails were formed, the light that had been covering the body exploded, releasing a shockwave that destroyed everything within 20 meters and continued out across the continent. Every living thing felt it, even if it were just as a ripple at the very edges of the land, before it dissipated into nothingness. The wave reached the center of the continent where he rested. The chakra in it triggered something. The crystal began to pulse, as if it were the heart of a giant. A faint light came from within. He was waking up. The son of the Shinigami, Lord of Death, had been awakened. La normal, La thought. Back in Konoha, the shockwave rippled through the village. It was like a gust of summer wind in the dead of winter. Everyone felt it, and all were afraid. The shinobi felt within the wave a chakra that had not been felt for 12 years, while the villagers had a sense of foreboding that washed over them. And only those closest to Naruto felt the pure chakra, the human part, which was mixed in with the demon energy. Whatever their case, all of Konoha was afraid. The older generation ran through the streets screaming that the demon was back to finish what it had started. Naruto's friends, the ones that had accepted him, were worried that something bad had happened. Those that did not know about the Kyuubi because of the inhuman chakra that the boys was mixed with, and those that did know because they thought that someone had killed the boy to free the Kyuubi. And all were frightened because there was no one there to seal it this time. Come to think of it, the demon would probably be even more enraged at the village for sealing it in the first place. All of them were right in a way. The Kyuubi was free, just not in the way that they thought. Tsunade was worried about Naruto, whom she considered to be her little brother. As soon as she felt Haruto's chakra, she summoned the Anbu captain. Take as many available nin as you can. I want Naruto found. The Kyuubi's chakra was mixed in with his, so I want you to take the rookie 9, just in case Kyuubi took over. Naruto may be able to stop him if he sees them. Remember, no one but Naruto really knows Kyuubi's gender. So Konoha thinks that the demon is male. When the Anbu didn't move, Tsunade slammed her fist into her desk, splitting it in 2. What are you waiting for? Get going. She yelled in his face. The Anbu captain made a quick exit to avoid the angry Hokage while thinking, that woman is almost as scary as the Kyuubi. With that last thought, he left to gather the rookie 9 and their senseis. 30 miles, approximately 60 km, from the clearing caused by the fusion, Sasuke and his team were jumping through the trees heading towards Atogakure. Sasuke was about to jump for the next branch when the shockwave blasted past him. His eyes darkened as he felt the Dobe's chakra mixed in with the wave. I thought I killed him. His eyes darkened even more as he felt the second chakra. He hated the thought of Naruto having anything to do with anything even remotely powerful. But this, he absolutely loathed this. The power in that wave was immense. It would have made both his brother and Orochimaru quake in mortal fear. He would not let that Dobe have anything to do with that power, dead or alive. Just then, the female ninja, whose name was Nelly, spoke. Sasuke-sama, a few moments before that chakra hit us, I saw what looked like a pillar of light back that way. The girl nodded in the direction that they had come from. Should we check it out? Sasuke scowled angrily as he dashed off towards where he had left the Dobe's body. Back in the clearing, the lights were just receding as a 9-tailed figure stepped out of the dust. It looked quite like Naruto, and yet not like him at all. The boy had memories that stretched back thousands of years. His 9 tails swished lazily behind him. He rumbled. His voice was similar to Naruto's, except that it a little deeper, and it had a rumbling, growling undertone to it. I will need a new name. One that describes who I am now and not who I was. His blue eyes unfocused for a moment before quickly sharpening. His eyes were a deep blue, as deep as the ocean. His pupils were slitted like a cat's. They were a true demon's eyes. They looked exactly like Kyuubi's did, except for the blue color that came from Naruto. The whisker marks on his cheeks had gotten longer, darker, and deeper. His hands, if they could still be called that, no longer had soft human nails at the fingertips. They were as hard as diamonds and could be as sharp as a midwinter's gale, or as dull as a human's. They could be extended as he wished, leaving them short so that they were even with his fingertips, or an inch and a half long, as well as any length in between. He had 9 reddish-orange tails that constantly moved behind him, as if they held a life of their own. His hair was also that same fiery color. His ears weren't human, they were those of a fox. From the top of his head rose 2 furry fox ears. They were the same red color as the rest of his head, except for the tips, which were black. Same position as Inuyasha's ears. If I didn't describe it well enough, he was the same height as Naruto had been, that would most likely never change. His muscles had become denser, gaining no mass, but becoming infinitely stronger. He was lighter too. Where once he had weighed 88 lbs circa 40 kg, he now weighed half that. The combination of these things made him much faster. He found himself looking at his claws with interest. Never again would he be left without a weapon. The same went for his tails. My name, for now, will be Kit Bikyu, Eternal Kitsune. He said with finality. A kid was a small fox, he was still young, even by human standards. Bikyu because it was Kyuubi backwards, not English, Japanese, and he would most likely live longer than a normal human. He might not be Kyuubi exactly, but his enemies should fear and respect him as if he was. In fact, he was basically the child of Kyuubi and Naruto, and was stronger than Kyuubi had been, even if it was just by a little. He could also use more jutsu than the old Kyuubi because of the old Naruto, or he would once he learned how to use his chakra again. He knew all of their jutsu, and was not limited by one set of seals. He could both the human and demon seals. As it was, he could only use one thing, and that was just because it was like a bloodline limit, but it was not a human limit, it was far too strong to be a human's. It was far stronger than any known to man. An Imitsuki, demon eyes, is what it was called, and it allowed him the use of all other optical limits. It also allowed him to copy other bloodline limits. For instance, he could use Haku's ice mirrors because he had seen them and they had been used against him. One really good thing about his demon limit was that all other limits were negated by his, regardless of whether he had seen them or not. The Byakugan would see nothing but his physical form. It wouldn't see his Tenketsu or chakra. The Sharingan would not be able to copy his jutsus. Thank Kami. Imagine if Uchiha got a hold of his high-level human jutsus. No demon ones though. Only demons and Hanyas can use those. Not to mention that if a human tried he would be killed from chakra depletion. Kid on the other hand could use both the Byakugan and Sharingan at the same time if he wished. When he used an Imitsuki it did not look like any other optical jutsu. When he used it his eyes would turn blood red like Kyuubi's, while his slitted pupils would obtain a golden lining. In the center of the pupil would be a small dot of blue, like a sapphire in the night sky, held in place by 9 blue-green threads. The dot and threads that connected it to the iris would always be near invisible, only revealed upon close inspection, but the red and gold were easily seen. One added, and very useful, aspect of the Inimitsuki was its ability to hide things. The object that he wanted to hide would be completely erased from the minds of all, making it invisible. It would still be there, someone could trip over a hidden object and still not see it. For instance, he could hide his tails, and while people's eyes would see them, their minds would not. Because their eyes could see it, this effect could not be cancelled by anyone except the one who cast it. How else did you think that demons kept their treasure vault secret? Anyway, he could use his tails in battle, anytime really, and no one would know. They would think that he was using a jutsu of some sort. This effect would still be active even if he weren't using his dojutsu, unless he chose to reveal what he had hidden. He could hide things without his eyes turning red. That would be extremely useful if he were surrounded and needed to get some one of thing out without revealing his dojutsu. At that moment he hid his tails. Wouldn't be too good if anyone found out about them back in Konoha. He sniffed the air and raised an eyebrow. All of his senses had been heightened to demon level as well. Everything was clearer and sharper, he could see farther as well. He could hear everything as well as feel it, hell, he could even taste things in the air. His sense of smell was better than Akamaru's was. Akamaru is Kiba's dog, somehow he knew that he could control his senses, dulling whichever one he wanted to human level, which he promptly did to most of them. He would leave them that way until he was ready to learn how to use and get used to them. He could smell a team from Konoha approaching. That was all he could tell from his first whiff, they were still too far away. He took another one to see who was coming. It was the rookie 9 and their teachers. Well, most of them anyway, no one from Team 7 was there. He decided to leave before they found him. Even if they wouldn't recognize him, there was still a chance one of them would, especially among the adults. There would also be an interrogation if they caught him there, and he was not ready to face a Biki, that man still scared him a little. Besides, he planned to one day return to Konoha, and he did not want anyone to remember that he had been there that day. When he returned he would judge them to see if they had changed or not, then he would decide if they deserved to live or not. Without a second thought he dashed off to the east in Sunagakure, the village hidden in sand, using his new speed, quickly leaving the clearing behind. He would learn many new jutsu before he returned. If he had waited a few more seconds the rookies would have caught him. His senses were still new to him so he had misjudged their distance. As it was he had just left as the first one stepped into the clearing. He had also missed the other team completely, the team that would change his life forever. But all of them had seen him, however briefly. 2 minuets before, the 9 had been rushing toward where they had all seen the pillar of light rise. Guy-sensei was yelling something about the power of youth while Hinata was more concerned about Naruto. She knew that his team had come this way on their mission before they returned. They had returned without him. Guy, sensing her thoughts, tried to distract her. "Are you sure it came from this direction, Hinata?" The wide-eyed girl stuttered, "Hi, the light came from this direction." Asuma stopped suddenly. The genin and one chunin, Shikamaru had passed the exam earlier that year, came to a halt behind him, staring at what lay before them. In the middle of the forest was a gap 40 meters across from one tree to another in any direction. The ground was perfectly level and as smooth as glass. No plant life grew within the circle. But that was not what caught their attention. Standing in the exact middle of the clearing was a boy with fiery red hair, besides that he looked like Naruto did, at least from a distance. He seemed to be in deep thought when he suddenly ran off in the opposite direction at an inhuman speed. Forget the thought of him being Naruto. The dead last could never ever hope to be that fast. Biba walked over to where the boy had been standing. "Well, I guess we found what made that light." He sniffed the air along with Akamaru, his dog. Naruto was here. What's funny is that his scent does not leave here. It just stops right here. He sniffed the air again. That boy kind of smelled like Naruto, but there's something else. I can't tell what. At that Akamaru barked. Biba was looking at his dog with a shocked and confused look. "What do you mean he smelled like a demon fox? There haven't been any demons around Konoha since Kyuubi." The teachers blanched as they listened to the conversation. Guy spoke with a serious tone, "The world's coming to an end. We will report this to Tsunade-sama. When we get back, speak of this to no one. You hear me?" All of the genin and the chunin nodded. "Good. Now let's head back." They all dashed back towards Konoha as fast as they could to report what they had found to the Hokage. Back in the Hokage's office, Tsunade was taking her afternoon nap. How she could take a nap after the shockwave, even I don't know. The team that had been sent out to find Naruto walked in to find her still sleeping and immediately began arguing over who would wake her up. You would have to be suicidal to want to wake her up. The last person to do it had wound up in the ICU for a month. Even now the poor man was still in the hospital. Fortunately for them, their arguing had woken her up for them. Unfortunately she started yelling at all of them to shut the hell up. Over the course of the next 30 minuets they told her of what they had found and about the boy in the clearing. At the end Tsunade spoke up, "That is very interesting. I wonder if that boy had anything to do with Naruto's disappearance. From now wherever you go on a mission ask around to see if anyone has seen a guy that fits that description. You're dismissed." After they left Tsunade's side and put her head on the desk. "What happened to you Naruto, where are you?" She questioned the air. "If that redhead hurt you in any way I will personally rip him limb from limb." Sasuke and his team had just entered the clearing. Sasuke searched intently for the body but found nothing, no blood, no chakra, nothing. If he had managed to drag himself away there should have been some blood. The dope was dead, he knew it. There were also signs of a team from Konoha on the ground. They must have taken the body. There is no way the dope survived that. That was when the clearing itself caught his attention. It was a perfect circle and smooth as glass, what's more, Naruto's body would have been in the center of the clearing. His eyes darkened. The dobe would have been in the middle, what did that mean? He activated his Sharingan and was surprised to see wisps of chakra floating through the air. The chakra was 3 different colors, 2 of which he had never seen before. The wisps were blue, red, and purple. He had never seen the last 2 colors before. He wasn't really paying attention whenever Naruto used Kyuubi's chakra. Wait, there was that time in the Valley of the End when Naruto's chakra had turned red. Could that mean that he was alive? Hell no. He may have had impressive healing abilities, but no one could survive a blow through the heart. So it wasn't worth thinking about. He had killed the dope and that was all there was to it. He had injured Kakashi, who was sure to tell Konoha about it. Maybe they would send more nins after him. He would like that. He wanted to test his strength some more. Sadly, he didn't recognize that he was turning into what he hated, what he thought his had been. He thought that his brother, Itachi, had massacred his family to test his power, which is exactly what he was doing now to Konoha. Sad, isn't it? Let's go back to Orochimaru-sama. He will be pleased to know that your training is complete, as well as the little bit of extra stuff we did, he said to his team. He and his teammates rushed back towards the hidden sound. In the center of the continent, the Shinigami Sun had just awakened. He knew whose chakra it was that had freed him. He now owed him a favor. Maybe he would get his father to do something special for him, or he might train him. So many choices. Oh well, for now he would just watch over Naruto. Who knows, the boy may be entertaining to watch. La normal, La thought, demon of the shadow. It had been 1 year since Naruto had died, well that's what everyone thought at least. The chunin exams were coming up and the teams were getting ready. It would be again held in Konoha, why I have no idea. There were also rumors of a new village that would be participating this year. Some claimed that it was as old as Konoha, but no one believed them. I mean, how long could a ninja village go on without another village finding out about them? Tsunade had been sitting at her desk thinking of both Naruto and the new village. She hoped that her brother was still alive, but every day her hope lessened. The new village also proposed a problem. That problem was that no one knew anything about them, like what styles they used or how strong they were. The village was called the village hidden in the shadows, or Kijigakure. Their leader was known as the Onakij, or Demon Shadow. On him there was some information, however little it was. Of course he was the strongest of the village, but what was surprising was that no target of him, no matter however strong, had ever gotten away. Her info also told her that he had taken an heir, but no information was to be had about whoever it was. Her thoughts moved to what happened almost a year ago. She gritted her teeth as she thought of the redhead. If he died because of you or if you know anything that could cause him harm, I swear I will. Her thoughts were scattered as Sakura burst through the door. Tsunade-sama. Her student yelled. Tsunade had been teaching the pink-haired girl since just after Naruto disappeared. Sakura gulped when she saw the Godame's annoyed expression. Sumimasen-sensei, but we found a foreign nin who fits the description of the one seen last year when Naruto vanished. Tsunade jumped up from behind her desk, a wild expression in her eyes. The thought of maybe finding something out about her little brother sparked something in her. Where? Bring his to me immediately. The blonde gambling addict roared. Hi Tsunade-sama. She disappeared with a puff of smoke. Tsunade stared at the door to her office with an expression that had they seen it, would have made the Anbu guarding her door beg for a demotion to Genin and a Luung vacation. I have a lot of questions for you redhead. Tsunade had started to laugh in a tone that would frighten Orochimaru himself. Several miles away from Konoha, a certain red-haired demon sneezed. Someone must be talking about me. I hope it's something good. Kid Bikyu, formerly known as Uzumaki Naruto, was currently swimming in the middle of the Kahaku River. He wasn't paying much attention, but he did notice that someone was coming a few moments before the person arrived. He may not have been paying attention, but his senses were still sharp enough to pick out anything that wasn't trying to hide its scent within 50 meters. Since he had left, his senses had sharpened even more, and he could now accurately tell distances by one sense alone. While his lesser range was 50 meters, if he were trying to find something, nothing within 20 kilometers could escape him. He had also relearned and perfected, no more than perfected every jutsu that both he and Kyuubi had known. He had also learned many new jutsus, some he was still working on. A few months ago, he had been sent on a mission to the hidden alchemist's village. There he had learned the art of transmutation. He hadn't quite perfected that one, but he had mastered it, as was just as good as his teachers the Elrics. One of his senseis had been a short, well he was really Kit's height, blonde man with a plaited ponytail going halfway down his back. What was really strange was that his right arm and left leg had been mechanical. That and his brother was a suit of armor. He had been told that they were like that because they had attempted human transmutation and expressly forbidden art. That was the cost paid for trying to bring someone, their mother, back to life. After hearing that and being told that much worse things could happen, as well as being forbid to even think about it, he had pushed the thought of human transmutation out of his mind. Transmutation or alchemy had been a simple trick for him because of his immense chakra, but it had taken a month to do it without wasting an enormous amount of energy. Before, even with his seemingly limitless reserves, he had only been able to do it about 4 times in one day. Now his limit was somewhere over 1,000, but of course he would never have to test that. Kit sighed. He smelled 2 people coming towards him. 2 people that he really didn't want to have to deal with right now. He knew he would have to eventually, he had just hoped that it would be a few days before then. He was here to take the chunin exams. Where was his team, you might ask? Well, he had no team. He had been sent here to take the test by himself. He had a letter asking the Hokage to allow it. Oh well, whatever. He had better get out before they showed up. With one leap he had crossed to the far side of the river where his camp had been. Walking up to the fire he began to do some hand seals. When he finished, purple chakra covered his body, solidifying into clothes. He was now wearing a deep red cloak, the hood resting on his back. It served two purposes. One was to store extra chakra, and the second was to keep people from accidentally touching one of his tails. Even if they couldn't see them, they could still be felt. He had on black cargo pants and black tennis shoes. Beneath the cloak he wore a crimson t-shirt. On the back of the cloak was the same symbol from the back of one of his sensei's cloaks, only behind this one was a 9-point compass. Below the design were the words, Lord of the South, written in the language of the demons. On his hands he wore black fingerless gloves so that he could use his claws if need be. He then pulled out his hit I-8 forehead protector and tied where it was supposed to go, on his forehead. As you might have guessed, he was from Kijigakure. Their forehead protectors were as black as a new moon's night and reflected no light. They also had no symbol carved into them. It was simply black, and that was how they were recognized. Later I'll tell how he got into Kijigakure, you'll just have to wait for now. The moment he finished tying his hit I-8, both Kakashi and Sakura landed beside him. Kakashi looked him over and lazily said, "The Hokage requests your presence." He looked at the headband the boy was wearing. "Are you here to take the chunin exam?" The boy turned to look at him, revealing two azure-slitted eyes that contained so much power it rivaled the sentence. "Yes. I am here to represent the shadow in the exams." He spoke with a voice that sounded mostly human, but there was also something in it that seemed to say that he also spoke in another, rougher, language. The demon language only sounds rough to humans. It's the same to them, human languages sound just as rough in their ears. Sakura spoke up then. "Then where's your team?" The boy turned to her, "I don't have one. I will be taking it by myself." Both Kakashi and Sakura stared dumbfounded at the boy before them. No one had ever taken the exam by himself or herself. Sure, the last part was solo, but you needed a team for the second part. Kakashi was the first to recover. "You will have to get Tsunade-sama's permission for that. You can do it while you are meeting with her. I believe she wanted to talk with you about something." "Okay then. Let's go." "Oh wait 1 second. As he clapped his hands together, both Leaf Nins got into a defensive position, clearly expecting an attack. Kid slammed his hands into the ground, purple chakra spreading out in the form of a circle. He slowly pulled his hands up, a katana rising up out of the ground beneath his hands. The sword had two colors, blue and brown, the blue on one side and brown on the other. When the chakra stopped sparking on the ground, the boy grinned in a way that was very familiar to them, only this grin revealed very sharp fangs. "By the way, my name is Kit Bikyu, and this is my sword Nyaosuken." But that he strapped the sword across his back and began walking towards Konoha's gates, leaving Kakashi and Sakura to catch up. A few minutes later Team 7 and their guest were walking through the streets of Konoha. Kit sniffed the air. He was looking for something and from the look on his face he had just found it. "Food." He yelled, making a mad dash towards where his nose and memories told him the food was located. Seconds later he was ordering miso ramen at what had once been Naruto's favorite restaurant, Ichiraku. Several minutes later, and 28 bowls later Team 7 found Kid happily slurping away at yet another bowl of ramen. Sakura looked sadly upon the bar. Naruto had always come here. He had always eaten an unimaginable amount of the noodles here. She glanced over at the pile of bowls beside him. She did a double take. There's no way that anyone besides Naruto could eat that much. Kakashi was thinking along the same lines when Kid shoved his seat back and yelled, "Gachisama Matashita. Thanks for the meal." He then pulled out his wallet and paid with something Kakashi had never seen anyone pay with before. Kid paid, not with cash, silver, or gold. No, he paid in diamonds. His whole wallet was filled with the clear gems. He passed one over to the awestruck owner. It was enough to buy out the store for several years, yet the boy acted as if it were nothing. To tell the truth, it wasn't. The shadow had entire rooms in certain buildings that were made from it. So they weren't worth all that much in the shadow, but they knew that they were quite valuable elsewhere. "Well then. You said the Hokage wanted to see me. Then lead the way." Kakashi just nodded, he couldn't seem to get his mouth to work. So instead of saying something to him he told Sakura to go home and rest up. They would be doing some heavy training the next day. As they approached the Hokage's tower, Kit began to feel sick. It wasn't because of the food, his stomach could take anything. It was because of something in the foundations of the building itself that was making him feel sick. It was a demon, so there were only a few things that could make him sick and he knew what was causing it. Holy water, he could smell it in the foundations. It was used to keep evil spirits away, yet in his case it had the unfortunate effect of making him sick to his stomach. The other things that could make demons and spirits that way were priests and mycos, or anyone descended of ones of strong holy blood. They were among the people he hated the most, they seemed to enjoy making spirits sick. They flaunted it like, well, thankfully there weren't many of them left. But that didn't mean that holy water wasn't still around. All really old buildings and temples and large amounts of the stuff in their bases. The tower was no exception. He began to shiver the closer they got to the tower. When he got to the door he looked like he was having a seizure. His guides looked worried. That was until he dashed past the doors and collapsed on the other side, shaking and muttering something about unholy water. What demons called holy water? Kakashi sighed and picked him up. The only reason that he was helping the boy was that the Hokage really wanted to see him. Well, that and it would look bad on Konoha if something bad happened to someone from another village outside of the chunin exam. Konoha did not need another war. And nobody knew what the shadow was capable of. Kakashi knocked on the door to the office, desperately hoping that Tsunade was awake. Enter. Thank Kami she was. He walked in and placed the still shaking kid on one of the couches in the room. When the Godame raised an eyebrow at him after looking at the boy, Kakashi explained everything that had happened from the time they met him to the present. Suddenly Kid sat up and bit his lip, tasting the blood as it seeped into his mouth. It tasted sweet and was very calming, not as calming as the blood of something else, but still enough to counteract the effects of the water. Tsunade shivered a bit when she saw a small amount of blood escape from his lips. She still hadn't gotten over her fear of blood. It was then that she took the time to look him over. He would be about Naruto's age and height. He had fiery red hair and looked like he could be very strong. His eyes were just like Naruto's. No one could have those same cerulean eyes. But they were slitted. Naruto's eyes were only like that when he was using the Kyuubi's chakra, but then they were that demonic red color. Sorry about that, Bachan. Tsunade, who had lowered her head in thought, looked up sharply at what he had called her. What did you just call me? Kid realized his slip-up. Well, you are an old lady. Your Jinjutsu isn't even half as good as it could be. Did this boy just insult me? How dare he? Tsunade prided herself with her young age Jinjutsu. Very few people had ever seen through it and no one had said anything about it being ineffective. She moved to punch him through the wall. Her jaw dropped. He had caught her punch as if it were nothing. He had caught the same punch that would have sent Jiraiya flying. It was getting uncomfortable with the Hokage staring at him like that. What? I'm the Onikage's heir. Oh, that's right. No one knew anything about me. Let me introduce myself. My name is Kid Bikyu. My hobbies are training, learning new jutsus, and having fun. My dream is to become stronger than my father, who by the way is not the Onikage, and to find a certain traitorous snake. Nice to meet you, kid. Now, mind telling me what that was about? Sure. It was because of part of the building. You see, some of us from Kajegakur have a small weakness to holy water. As you know, it is used to ward off evil spirits and demons, but for some of us it makes us sick. I have a somewhat more severe reaction to the water for some reason. It is usually cured with time and some rest. Kid smiled. Tsunade studied him for a few more moments. He was being honest, but she could also tell that he wasn't telling the whole truth. She would look into it later, but for now, you were seen here exactly 1 year ago. That day was the same day that one Uzumaki Naruto disappeared. What's more, you were seen in the last place that he was known to be at. Do you have any explanation for this? Her voice held an edge of steel. Nothing would come between her and any possible news of her brother. Actually, I do. I'm sure you've heard that Uchiha Sasuke had attacked Naruto's team on that day. Sasuke had stabbed Naruto through the heart with a Chidori and Naruto, rather that set Kyuubi free, completely destroyed himself with the last of his chakra. I had felt the shock wave and went to investigate. I was actually on a mission to find him and gather information on his demon so that we could finish his seal. It was a huge lie and he knew it. We knew that it wasn't finished because we were the ones that came up with the jutsu. How the fourth learned it we will never know. I'm sorry, but it seems that your little brother is no more. Tsunade slumped back in her seat. It couldn't be. Her brother couldn't be dead. But it seemed that one more precious person had died. Naruto then with a sad voice she said, very well. You're free to go. The Chunin exam is in 2 days. Take your team and go to this hotel. Reservation. I'm sorry Tsunade-sama, but I have no team. I will be taking the exam alone. Here is a letter explaining everything, signed by the Onikage. He pulled out a scroll with the symbol of the shadow marked on it and handed it over to the Godame. He bowed and left, leaving a very sad Hokage to read over the scroll. She read the scroll. She blinked and rereads it. She then dropped the scroll, shocked. At the very bottom of the scroll was what she had waited 12 long months to her. Her little brother was alive. 1 year ago, it read, we found one Uzumaki Naruto, lying on the ground close to death. We brought him to the shadow and nursed him back to health. Afterwards we trained him after hearing of his past. We already knew of the Kyuubi, and you should be happy to know that she is no more. That's right, Kyuubi was a girl and had very good reason to attack your village. I will not say what that reason is. That is up to her successor. Tsunade blanched at hearing that Kyuubi had a successor. The new Kyuubi no Kitsune is none other than her vessel, Uzumaki Naruto, who is now known as Kid Bikyu. As far as we know he holds no grudge against the Leaf and will aid if a war comes to pass, though he will not hesitate to defend himself if attacked. I must warn you not to reveal any of this though. Naruto, Kid asked me to tell only you. As for taking on the chunin exams by himself, he can do it easily. Our best Anbu and I have trained him. But if you must, you have my permission to put him on one of your teams. Anikage of Kajigakure, Naiko Sensui, my little brother is alive. Tears of happiness streamed from her eyes. So that was why he knew those things. But why didn't you tell me yourself? And why do you look like that? Is it a henge, or is it because of Kyuubi? She would find out soon enough. The next day Tsunade sent Kakashi to go find their guest from the shadow. She would be placing him on one of the teams. She believed the Anikage about Kit's strength, but one of her teams was one short. Most of the rookie 9 were still genin and would be taking the exam again this year. Shikamaru had passed a year before and Sasuke had gone to Orochimaru and was no longer a part of the Leaf. Sakura had been promoted to chunin several months ago due to the fact that she was Tsunade's student. That left one team with 2 members. It was TAM-10, which was Ino, Shikamaru and Choji, under Sarutobi Asuma. Even though Shikamaru was a chunin he was allowed to stay with his team, but he could not take part in the exam again. Kit's coming was a very good thing for their team because the exam required teams of 3 and Kit would be filling the 3rd spot. Currently Asuma was on a solo mission so she would have to get a replacement and she knew exactly whom she wanted, Kakashi. He no longer had a team and had been looking to take on a new one, so for now he would substitute for Asuma. He had already been told this and was very glad to take them on as his new temporary team. He was surprised when she told him that Kit would be joining them but had not argued with her. Who knew, he might be able to copy some new jutsu. She was pulled from her thoughts as the door opened and a red-headed shadow nin's head popped into view. You wanted to see me, Bachan? She grimaced at being called an old woman but kept her temper, barely. Yes I did, Naruto. She added his name as an afterthought and was pleased to see him jump at the name. Ha. So when did you figure out who I was? I knew you'd figure it out eventually, but I didn't think I was that obvious. Tsunade smiled wide. So he really was her little brother. She stood up and hugged him, tears coming from her eyes. Oh Naruto. I've missed you so much. It stiffened for a moment before hugging her back. I've missed you too, Bachan. After a moment she shoved him away. I expect you to tell me what happened sometime. Fine, I'll tell you after the exam. Now, are you going to let me take it solo or are you going to put me on a team? You will be taking it on a team. You remember that Shikamaru passed last year. Well that left his team this year one short so you will be joining Team 10 as their 3rd member. Their sensei Asuma is on a mission right now so Kakashi will be your temporary sensei. It groaned, he really didn't want to have to deal with the silver-haired jounin. You won't tell him who I am will you? He asked suddenly. No, I won't. I will leave that up to you, but the truth will come out sooner or later, so she left the sentence hanging. You should hurry up. Your team is waiting for you at their training grounds. It bowed, ladder Bachan. And disappeared in a swirl of purple chakra. Tsunade sighed after he was gone. He's finally back. At Team 10's training grounds, Ino was having a tantrum. Where are they? Sakura warned me about Kakashi, but I never thought that he'd be this late. She fumed. And where's our new member? Hokage-sama said he'd be here as well. There was a puff of smoke and there stood Kakashi who greeted them with his signature, yo. He looked around and noted one person was missing. You seem to be missing someone. He knew that Shikamaru was on a mission with Asuma, so he wasn't talking about him. Let's see Ino, Choji and he never had the chance to finish the sentence as a swirl of purple chakra appeared right in front of him. The chakra began to condense into the shape of a person. When the chakra settled Kit was standing in front of Kakashi. I'm not late am I? He looked over at Kakashi. I guess that answers that question. Kakashi was infamous for his lateness and if he were later than him, he was most definitely late. Ino just stared at him. He was hot. Almost like Sasuke had been, except that this guy had a warm aura around him. One that said that anyone could be his friend. Kakashi looked at him lazily. Tsunade had already told him that the Shadow Nin would be on his team. Well, let's get this started shall we? I'm sure you two know each other, but you know next to nothing about me and none of us know anything about you. He said pointing toward Kit. So, introduction time. My name is Hada Kakashi, my likes, hates and dreams are none of your business, but I have lots of hobbies. Now you. He indicated Ino. She stood and bowed, my name is Yamanaka Ino. My likes are cute boys. My dream is to she blushed. I hate forehead girl. She spat the name as if it were diseased. Kakashi sighed and pointed at Choji. Choji stayed sitting, eating his chips as always, my name is, eating noise every 2 words, Akimichi Choji. I like eating and food. My likes are my friends Shikamaru and Ino. My dream is to one day open an all-you-can-eat steakhouse. I dislike people who call others fat and pick on people because of their size. Kakashi nodded. He had been expecting something like that. Last is you. He waved at Kit. Kit kept his eyes closed as if he were sleeping and stayed reclined against a tree. My name is Kit Bikyu. I like training and learning new jutsu. My dream is to become the Onakage of Kijigakure. Everyone frowned at that. Not because they didn't like the idea, but because it reminded them of their lost friend. It paid them no mind. I hate people who hate others without reason and without really knowing who they hate. He said with finality. Another thing is that I have triple rank. Everyone raised an eyebrow at that. Kid explained. Your villages haven't known about my village before this year. There is also another village that has been hidden as well that the Shadow has an alliance with. Everyone in the Shadow has 2 ranks, one for our village and one for the other village. Out here, we are considered genin. Kakashi nodded in understanding. In the other village, the hidden village of alchemists, I am a jounin. I won't tell you about any of my jutsu right now, so don't bother asking, most are top secret. Anyway, in my village I am one of the 3 sannin. All of their jaws dropped at that. They had someone that was considered a sannin, even if it was in his own village, on their team. Kakashi was the first to recover. Well, these 2 have already passed the real genin test, but you still have to prove it to me. And if you are a sannin like you say, you should have no problem taking this bell from me. He said, holding up a small silver bell. And as a show of my respect I will even use this. He said, revealing his Sharingan. To say the least, he was shocked when Kit started laughing. That's nice and all, but it won't work. I will be using my own bloodline so you can't copy them. As if to prove his point, his cloak shifted as one of his tails shot out, knocking Kakashi back several feet. To everyone else it looked like he had used the wind to attack. Kakashi grinned and pulled out several shuriken and hurled them at Kit, who didn't even bother getting out of the way. The shuriken struck his dead on, but didn't pierce his skin. Kit cursed, damn, I don't have that seal on high enough. He was a demon after all. A simple shuriken would never pierce his skin unless he upped the strength of his power limiter. His opponent looked at him confused. Never mind. And began making seals. Fox skill. 6th binding. He yelled as 6 of his tails shot out and wrapped around both of Kakashi's arms and legs. The other 2 wrapped around his waist and neck. Struggle as he might, Kakashi could not move. As he struggled he noticed something. Whatever was holding him was physical, it wasn't a jutsu. Second was that whatever was holding him was furry. And third was that not even his Sharingan could break the Jinjutsu that hid what bound him. It must be his bloodline limit. Too bad I can't copy it. Suddenly he was free to move again, and he no longer had the bells on him. He started searching his belt for them when a ringing brought his gaze to Kit, who was jingling them in front of his face with a stupid grin on his face. Very good. You pass. Meet us here tomorrow at 0700 hours. Don't be late. Kit mumbled under his breath, you should follow your own advice, pervert. Both he and his sensei poofed out of sight a few seconds later as their unseen guest joined the other 2 genin. It was Hyuga Niji. He was rubbing his eyes as he joined the other 2. I must be seeing things. Ino looked at him, what do you mean? Sure, he beat Kakashi, but that's not surprising as he is a senin in his own country. Niji glared at her, that's not what I meant. That boy, he had 128 tenketsus, twice as many as anyone else. He paused and then continued, another weird thing was his inner coils. It looked like he had 2 sets, one that spiraled right and one that went left. But all of this is impossible. That's why I say that I'm seeing things. The others remained silent. All of them had the same thing on their mind, who or what was their new teammate. In the Sound Nation, a frantic chunin raced through the halls of the Otakage base. He rushed toward where Orochimaru and Sasuke were planning the takeover of Konoha. He ran through the door and was immediately pinned to the wall. I thought I made it very clear that we were not to be disturbed. Orochimaru hissed. I have very important news for Sasuke-sama. The chunin managed to get out. Sasuke got up and slowly walked over to the petrified nin. He secretly felt sorry for him, he would die no matter how important his news was. What is so important that you would disobey a direct order from the Otakage to tell me? The pinned nin gulped, remember that shockwave last year? Sasuke nodded and motioned for him to continue. Well, a ninja from an unknown village just entered Konoha with a chakra signature that perfectly matches that of the wave. As soon as the words left his lips he was again slammed against the wall. You'd better think about what you just told me. Sasuke threatened. Are you sure that his chakra matches the wave? Hiya Sasuke-sama. We're sure it's him. Sasuke dropped him on the floor and turned his back to the unfortunate nin. You had better be right or you will be begging to die by the time I'm done with you. The nin just nodded before scrambling out of the room. So, you were right. He survived. Do you know what that other power was that he came in contact with? Asked Orochimaru. No, I don't. And I don't care. I will kill him either way. He got away last time because I was too quick in my judgment, but this time I won't make the same mistake. Orochimaru nodded, you know that the chunin exams are coming up in Konoha. That would be the perfect time to carry out our plan. You can finally kill him and I can take over the leaf. We will change how we look and take part in the exams ourselves. We? You mean that you are entering as well? Yes. It has gotten too boring around here and I want to see some blood. I understand. Sasuke and Orochimaru went back to their plans, altering them because of what they had just heard. Several hours later Kit was standing in the middle of one of the training grounds, staring at the full moon. He jumped to the top of the tallest tree he could see and got a faraway look in his eyes as he remembered what happened over the past year. Part 6. Memories of the past. A twig snapped on the forest floor. Kit came back to himself with a start. This wasn't a good place to be remembering the past. He could be caught here and he didn't want that. Besides, he still had his den to set up. Decided, he jumped from the tree and raced towards the north gate. Outside of Konoha there was one section of forest near the wall that no one ever went near. It was the perfect place for him to set up one of his dens. The dens were small time-space pockets that completely removed the area from the laws of time and space. It was much like the Tsukiyomi. He controlled every element of the removed space. The best part was that no one would ever know that it was there. Only he and a few chosen others could enter, and the others only when he was inside. He could train for years inside and not a second pass on the outside, or years could pass on the outside and seconds on the inside. The only bad part is that it used all of his chakra. Afterwards he would have to sleep for several days. He carefully chose a tree in the middle of the densest part of the forest. That tree would become the anchor for the jutsu, as well as the door into it. He carved off a circular patch of bark, 10 inches in diameter. With a flick of his wrist, he carved the lines that would have to be inked into the clear patch. He split open his thumb and began to ink in the lines. It was incredibly complex, and one mistake could send him straight to the other world. That was not something that he wanted to happen, thus it took him over an hour to accurately ink in the seals. After that was done he began with the hand seals to activate it. It was not a long sequence, the pattern in the wood had been the hard part. When he finished them, he pressed his hands, holding the last hand seal, into the center of the diagram, which caught fire and burned itself into the tree. Kit felt the effects instantly as he was dragged into his newly created den. Time would be the same inside as it was outside for now. He would alter everything later, but for now it was a black nothingness, save for the entrance, which looked like a white gate. Before he could think further on it he fell into a deep sleep in which his mind was free to wander. The past year played itself out before his mind's eye. Flashback, he would learn some new jutsus before he returned. Because his senses were still new to him he had miscalculated the Konoha team's distance. He shot off just as they entered the clearing. They had seen him, however briefly. He ran as fast as he could away from that place, not wanting any chance that he could be caught. He only sensed the team from Konoha. What he didn't know was that there was another group of people watching him. They knew he had carried a demon, they also knew what he had just done, and were proud of Hai for not thinking twice about the consequences. They too had done the same thing. They were Shadow Nin, and every one of them had a demon or spirit living in them. The strongest of them had learned respect for the being inside them and merged with them, giving both more freedom. The Shadow Nation had been formed from various spirit vessels coming together, most of them had been driven from their homes or had left to find others like them. Some of them had had the spirits forced on them, like Naruto, but others had willingly been possessed. They knew all of the tricks to hide themselves from demons as well as humans, and that is why Kit didn't sense them. They followed him until he stopped at a canyon. They made their move and surrounded him. Kit charges them, but before he could get to them, they form a barrier to contain him. Kit smashes into the purplish clear wall and begins cursing in both the human and demon tongue. The nin surrounding him filch at his curses. How could as young as him know such language? Their leader holds up his hands in a sign of peace. We do not wish to harm you. We only want to talk without getting our heads bitten off. We will release you as soon as we have said what needs to be. Let me out. Now. Kit charges the barrier once again using his demon chakra this time. The leader sighs and forms the hand seals, Inu, Ryu, Seru, Tora, Oni. The wall breaks apart, but instead of disappearing, the pieces attach themselves to the young demon lord, becoming chains strong enough to hold him in place. You are like us. Everyone from Kajigakure are vessels. Whether it be demon or spirit, we are all vessels like you. Very few of us have achieved what you just did. He laughs at the expression on Kit's face. Yes, we know of that technique, though none of us have been fool enough to do it out in the open, especially those of us with higher level spirits, and it seems that's what you have. Care to tell us what your demon's name was? Did HMPHS. That was no surprise to him. Not even the fourth Hokage could truly defeat the Kyuubi, and it took his life to even seal it, but the seal was now broken, and he was stronger than ever. He would not attack Konoha again, but it was open season on the Sound. Just the thought of them made Kit have some very nasty fantasies involving him ripping out someone's throat with his teeth and a few well places 1,000 years of pain. He begins chuckling at the images, not being able to laugh outright because of those nasty purple chains. Kit shakes his head and manages to get out. "No, I don't trust you quite yet." The nin shudders at the cruel intent radiating from the boy in front of him, even though he knows it isn't directed at them. "I can tell you still don't believe us, just by the look in your eye. Here, let us show you something." He takes off his shoulder guard revealing a cracked demon seal. He gestures for the others to do the same, none of their seals are cracked. Kit's eyes widen. "There, you see. We have not lied to you. Now is it safe to release you?" Kit nods and the nin releases his restraining jutsu. "What do you want with me? If all they're after is power they are the same as the sound. We would like you to come with us. We will teach you how to use your power to its fullest, as well as use both types of chakra, human and demon." Just then he notices something on Kit's right bicep. He jumps forward and grabs Kit's arm. Before the boy could do anything he says. "Interesting, it seems you weren't able to merge with him completely all at once. This has happened to only one other person, and that was the current Onakage. He finished merging 2 months later. So, will you come with us to meet him?" On Kit's right bicep was a 9-line spiral where each line took the shape of a foxtail. Only one tail had a bluish color to it, the rest were just black outlines. "I'll have to think about that." He had been planning on traveling around to learn new skills before he would return. Here was a perfect opportunity, but he still wasn't sure if he could trust these people. "As a show of goodwill, we will teach you how to do a new skill. We know that you won't be able to use it yet because of the fusion, but it is still a good technique to know. It is called Kage Hata no Jutsu or Shadow Body Technique." Well, that's a point in their favor. They know that I can't use any jutsus and are going to teach me one. He watches as the Shadow Junin performs some seals and turns into a semi-transparent shadow. All Shadow Genin know this skill. It is D rank. It would be higher except for a few flaws. When the user is inside of a shadow it is near impossible to be seen, only those who know what to look for could find the user, but when the user is in sunlight, they may as well not be using it because it makes them easier to spot. It thought about the jutsu, it would be useful during any information gathering missions in the future. "I'll go with you. But that doesn't mean that I'll stay." "Excellent. Let's get going then." The rest of the team performed Kage Hata, knowing that the boy would be able to follow them by smell alone, even if he couldn't see them because it was getting dark. Kit set off after them. Several hours later Kit came to a clearing where the Shadow Nins had set up camp. Their leader walked up to him. "You did good. It will take us another 40 hours to get to Kijigakure. That was some light training to sharpen and get used to your demon senses. My name is Naiko by the way." "Okay, my name's Kit." Something didn't seem right about them, then it came to him. "How did you get to me so fast? If it takes 2 days to get from Kijigakure to Konoha, what were you doing there? I was wondering when you'd noticed that." "Actually we were in Kijigakure when you performed the ritual." Kit gives him a weird look. "You see there's a teleport jutsu that we can use, but only in the village, so it's a one-way thing. That's why we're walking back, besides it being part of your training." "That makes sense. So the trip is part of my training. Anything else you can teach or tell me on the way?" "There is only one thing. We can't teach you how to use your chakra here, most of the time it is very destructive to the area around the person. What I can teach you is what's known as demon's immunity. It is D rank because every fused and most possessed can use it. Every demon or spirit has 2 elements that they have complete control over. That element cannot harm them, and the demon can use that one whenever they wish using virtually no energy. Shukaku for instance, his element is sand and air, because he was sealed in that boy, Gara I think his name was, also has the same power. He uses sand without even thinking about it. Now before you ask, you couldn't use your demon's elements because it was not sealed into you before birth. Now you can because you are at least part demon. The amount of control and uses of it will depend on your demon power. Most of our fused are Hanyu level, or half demon, the lowest rank therefore they only have immunity. Our Kage is a demon general level, while I'm a low class demon. Before you fused your demon should have told you what your level would be." "Yeah, Kyuubi said something about that." He didn't notice Naiko's eyes widen at his demon's name. "Let me see, he said that I wouldn't be a regular demon, but I can't remember what level he said I'd be. I wish I had listened." Naiko had almost fallen over Kyuubi. He was one of the highest level demons there was, he was a demon lord, and there were only 4 demons that ever attained that level. They were the north, south, east, and west demon lords. Their names were Shukaku, Kyuubi, the one you fused with, Akuma, and Kyo. You fused with Kyuubi so that would make you the demon lord of the south. I had heard that the Kyuubi had been sealed, but I didn't believe it. It ignores Naiko's rambling, so what's my element? To answer the boy's question he performed several hand seals. Dotendor Uiden no Jutsu. A high-level dragon head made of earth rushes at Kit. His eyes widen as he sees it rushing at him. One of the ninjas behind Kit makes some hand seals. Suiten Sir Uiden no Jutsu. A dragon made from water heads toward Kit's back. No time to dodge it, have to block. He crosses his arms in front of his face to shield his eyes. The dragons slam into him but do no damage. They split in half on his arms and back. Kid opens his eyes and watches the water and earth swirl around him. He holds out one of his hands and gasps as the elements converge above it and condenses before entering his body. This feels good. I feel so warm, like I'm being surrounded by friends. Naiko watches the kitsune in amusement. You are a Doton Suiton element and it seems that you have complete control of them. That's why it entered you. Only the highest level spirits have the control to do that. I must warn you though, because you are an incarnate of those elements, you have a weakness to fire and wood. Not in general, but if chakra is added to it, it will do some damage. The only way to cancel it is to use an attack with the same or more chakra in it. Cool. Anything else? No. There is nothing else that I am allowed to teach you. The rest is for the cage to teach you. He will have a test for you though. The fusion was part of the test, not many completed and those that didn't died. Would you quit swinging those tails? Kit was surprised at this. He had hidden them yet Naiko had seen them. Sorry, I can't. How can you see them? Naiko laughs. Another few lessons. 1. Inimitsuki doesn't work on others with the skill. The hiding aspect of it anyway. So we can see your tails. Even though they are hidden they can still cause damage. 2. I will teach you how to control your tails. It's really simple. They are like another arm. You must concentrate on keeping them still. Once you can do that you can pretty much do whatever you want with them. It would be a good idea to learn this before we get to Kijigakure or the Onakage may give you his special tail training. Naiko reveals that he has 2 tails as he rubs its base. I got it and he hung me from the roof for 2 days. He winces at the memory. Anyway, get some sleep. Tomorrow will be harder as we will be working on the rest of your senses. Kid nods and lies down and begins to dream of the day he would return. True to Naiko's word, the next day was much harder. When Kid awoke there was nobody there. He got up to search for them, but as he sat up he noticed a note beside him. Don't bother looking for us around camp. By the time you read this note we will be several miles away. Use your senses to find us. You can even use demon eyes if you think that it will help. We hope to see you before nightfall. Naiko, well, that explains why nobody is here. He looks around for a clue. Stupid Kit. Didn't you read the note? Use your senses. Try sniffing the air. Kit yelps in surprise. Kyuubi. You're still here. Yes, Kit. Until that mark on your shoulder is complete, I will still be here, maybe even after, if we both feel like it. Until then I will teach you some skills that even their cage can't. Jutsus that only demon lords can do. But before I do, I want you to get used to your new body. Now do as I said and use your sense of smell to find which way they went. It should be fairly easy. Okay. Sounds fair. He takes a big sniff at the air and immediately covers his nose with a sick look on his face. In the back of his mind Kyuubi is laughing ha 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 ha. Laughing undertone, take smaller whiffs Kit. Your nose is even more sensitive than a dog's now. Normal breathing should be enough for you to find their trail. Later I will teach you how to temporarily lessen your senses. Believe me, they can give one hell of a headache sometimes. Do you remember what any of them smelled like? Naiko smelled like pine trees and a little like squirrel. The rest I didn't really pay attention to. Good. For now let's have some fun. Concentrate on your coils. You can't use chakra yet, but you can do a few things without it, like the demon eyes and demon's immunity. One other thing you can do is shape shift into the form of what was sealed inside. So you can be any type of fox with as many tails as you like. Anything else will use chakra. Now concentrate on your coils, you will see something that resembles a fox. There is a pop, similar to the sound a Bushin makes when it appears. Where Kid once stood now sits an orange fox with 9 tails. You found it. Now let's go find those shadow nins. This is for those of you who think the Kid has to have some demonic nature. He is a demon lord for Kami's sake. 2 hours later a sound nin came across a strange sight. An orange 9-tailed fox was sniffing the ground, apparently looking at something. He decided to catch it and give it to Orochimaru. He would like it, after all, there had only been one other 9-tailed fox and it had almost destroyed Konoha. He began to sneak pee on it when the fox lifted its head and looked at him. It had dark blue eyes. The fox looked him over, but when it saw his forehead protector, its eyes turned blood red and started leaking an intense killing intent. His intent was so strong that it completely dwarfed anything that he had ever felt from his master. The nin was more afraid of this fox than he was of Orochimaru, as crazy as it sounds it was true. Just then the fox leapt at him, faster than should have been possible, with claws extended and fangs bared. He had no time to scream for help from his team which were only 50 feet away, as the fox tore out his throat with his fangs and proceeded to use him as a scratching post. When the fox was done the only thing that could have identified him was his hit eye. What was left of the body was clawed and ripped to the point where his insides were falling out. His neck was almost non-existent. Even his mother could not have recognized his face. At the smell of blood the dead nin's teammates came to investigate. What they saw horrified them, even though they were ninja, what they saw had them retching their breakfast all over the forest floor. When they finished, they saw the fox standing next to the body, blood dripping from his mouth and blood-stained claws. This was the creature that killed their teammate. They pulled out their kunai, but before they could throw them, they were as dead as the other guy. Kit spent the next half hour mulling and disfiguring the bodies. His rage at the sound knew no bounds. When he finished, the smell of blood was so thick in the air that he had a hard time finding the Shadow Nin's trail, but find it he did. And he loved every minuet of it. Naiko and his team were just finishing their dinner as the nine-tailed demon walked into their camp. Naiko could smell the blood even before he saw him. Seems that our friend has been having some fun. Kit sat down beside him after he changed back to his human form. Let's get you cleaned up while you tell me what happened. He pulls Kit towards a nearby river. Kit tells him how he encountered the sound nins and couldn't help himself. He just had to kill them. When Naiko heard what the fox did to them he shuddered, the sound had made a powerful enemy somehow. He looks over at Kit. How did you change your form? I didn't teach it to you. Kit replies Kyuubi told me. He is going to be teaching me some of his jutsus until we are fully merged. It seems that he had too much power for me to fuse with at one time. Okay. That would make sense. He was a demon lord after all. Anyway, we're close to Kajegakur. We will take you there tomorrow. I am impressed with how quickly you've gotten used to your new body. You've even gotten control of your tails. Naiko smiles. Let's go to bed. Tomorrow you will meet the Onakage. He walks back towards the camp. Kit quickly follows, but doesn't lie down next to the fire. Instead he jumps up into the nearest the fire and lies down on a branch directly over the fire. He felt more comfortable there than he did on the ground. He was warmer here, and the smell of smoke from the fire was comforting, and he quickly fell asleep. The next day, when he awoke the Shadow Nins were still there. Naiko was sitting beside him. Good, you're up. As soon as you are ready we will head for the Shadow Village. Kit nods before taking off towards the river. He slowly gets in. The water was freezing cold, but he still liked it. You are water incarnate, that's why you like it, but it's still too cold. Try using your inner power to alter the water around you. Kyuubi senses Kit's thought on that last comment. No. This has nothing to do with fuzzy brows sensei. I'm not into that youth power stuff. I was talking about your, literal inner power. Contained where I was once imprisoned are gained mountains and wide oceans. If they were brought to the physical plane they would be about the size of the planet. As I said you are water incarnate. Your body, skin, and organs are all made of earth and water. It cannot be felt or detected in any way from the outside. Now warm up this freezing river before you pass out. It focuses on where Kyuubi once was. In his mind he sees an enormous ocean. He walks up to it, walks into it. As he does in the outside world the water around him begins to change. He opens his eyes to see the steam rising from the lake. Cool. What else can you show me? Nothing else right now, Kit. Later, when you are stronger I will teach you demon jutsu. But right now you aren't strong enough. Kit sits and soaks in the steaming water for a little bit. Being made of water, the immense beings in the river did not harm him in the least, in fact they quite enjoyed his few minuets he got out. The moment he did the water stopped steaming, and his body dried instantly by bringing the water form outside in. He walked back to Naiko thinking about all the fun things he could do with demon's immunity. He would have to be careful, he might start wanting to start earthquakes and get everyone wet. Naiko looks him up and down. He had seen the steam rising from the river. You ready to go? At Kit's nod he got up. We will reach the village in an hour. The village really is hidden so we will ask you never to reveal the location to anybody. When you return to the leaf, if you decide to come back, make sure no one follows you. Kit nods again. Let's go then. 1 hour later, they are standing at the mouth of a dark cave. Nothing could be seen past the entrance. Naiko sees Kit's hesitance to enter. Don't worry. It's just a Jinjustu. Once you pass through it you will be able to see fine. He pushes Kit past the illusion and quickly follows. Naiko was right. After you got past the Jinjustu lanterns hanging every 5 feet showed the way. They followed the past as it descended into the earth. After 10 minuets they came to the end of the tunnel. What Kit saw there shocked him. He knew that there would be a village down there, but he didn't expect it to be so big. It was at least the size of Konoha, if not bigger. Lanterns brightly lighted it, even if those were doused, there was a gigantic light source hanging 100 yards above the village. He couldn't tell what it was made from, all he knew was that it looked like a mini sun. People walked the streets, thought it was less populated than Konoha, but that was to be expected, as Konoha wasn't actually hidden. In the center of the cavern was what looked like the Hokage's tower. It rose several stories into the air and was elegantly made. The top 2 floors seemed to be made only of glass, it would give anyone inside a great view of the village. Welcome to the village of shadows. Where all vessels are welcomed with open arms. Naiko says grandly. He notices the kid is staring about in wonder. Nice isn't it? It was built in one of your old dens. Kid nodded at this, he had thought that it felt familiar. You should get going. That building in the center is the Onikage's tower. It should be easy enough to find, so I will leave you here. I have business to see to. If you get lost, ask any of the villagers. They would be happy to tell you. Later. Naiko vanishes in a puff of ninja smoke. Kid sniffed the air, trying to see which way the man went, but all he got was the smell of smoke. Kid shrugged, he said he'd see me later. I'll go see the Onikage now, and I'll find him later. He quickly descends the ramp that lead from the tunnel entrance to the village below. As he walked through the streets, he noticed a few things. 1. Everyone had either a glow about them or had varying numbers of tails. None of them seemed bothered by them or tried to hide it, so he revealed his 9 fox tails. Though if what Naiko said was true, they could see them already. Second, he noticed that everyone was happy and didn't look at him with anger and hate in their eyes. Instead, there was a look of warm welcome. Third was that all of the buildings had been carved from the living rock that were the same tan color as the walls. This was a place where he could live in peace, or as close to it as a shinobi got to it. He got lost several times on his way to the Onikage's tower. How, I have no idea. When he asked for directions, the people smiled and pointed in the right direction, saying that they hoped to see him around. The people here really are nice. When he finally made it to the tower, he had decided that this would be like his second home. He loved the place. 2 shadow Anbu stood next to the doors. They had been told that a 9 tails would be coming. They were curious to see what type he was. After all, it wasn't every day that you saw a 9 tails. Even in a city filled with vessels. They stopped Kid at the door. What is your business here? They were surprised that he was a fox type. There had only been one 9-tailed fox in recorded history, and it had disappeared long ago. Only showing up 13 years ago. No one knew, except for the people of Konoha, what had happened. And they weren't telling. The guards knew very well what he was there for, the Onikage had told them himself, but it was still their job to ask. Kid replied, Naiko told me that I should see the Onikage. Can I see him now? He noticed the weird look they gave him when he said that. What? Nothing. You can go. He should be on the top floor. As soon as the guard was done talking, Kid dashed through the door. He was up the stairs and in front of the cage's office a minuet later. His passing had been so fast that the few Anbu that had seen him were rushing after him to see what was the matter. It knocked on the door and a familiar voice responded. Come in. I've been waiting for you. The door was in splinters a second later with Kit standing amid the wreckage. He was pointing an accusing finger at the man sitting in the Onikage's chair. You. Why didn't you tell me you were the Onikage? The man just laughed. I'm sorry. But now you know, and I will personally be teaching you. Kit jumped on him. Naiko. I'm gonna kill you. Naiko, or the cage just laughed harder. Just at that moment several of the shadow Anbu ran in. Kit's eyes grew wide as he recognized 2 of the faces. Itachi and Kisame were among the nins. He had not noticed it before, but all of the Anbu had been wearing black cloaks with red clouds on them. Itachi spoke. Is something wrong, Onikage? Oh. It's you, Naruto. Kit looks at Naiko. Akatsuki is your Anbu. Naiko just nods. Kit turns to Itachi. So this is why you've been after me. It was a statement, not a question, but Itachi nodded anyway. Why did you kill your entire clan? Don't tell me it was to test your power. I know that isn't the real reason. Itachi smiles. You're smarter than that weakling brother of mine. The truth is that I really didn't kill them. It was Orochimaru using a henge. He wanted my brother and my clan wouldn't give him to the snake. It seems he got Sasuke anyway. You'll bring him back, right? You are the only person he would listen to. Kid laughed. He tried to kill me. Twice. I really doubt he'd listen to me, but I did make a promise. It is my ninja way to never give up, so I will get him back. And if you hadn't noticed, I don't look like I used to, and my name's not Naruto anymore. It's Kit. I have your brother to thank for the change. Itachi looks sad for a minuet, but then he nods. Let's go. I will train you along with Naiko. If you were wondering why I'm here, it is because of the Manjikyu Sharingan. I am considered a demon because of it. I will teach you how to use the Sharingan part of an Imitsuki, as well as how to fight my brother. Come. Itachi turns and walks out of the office. Kid asks Naiko if it is okay. After he receives a nod, he runs out after the Roge Uchiha. Itachi led him to a small training ground. Itachi puts his weapons on the ground before walking up to Kit. You have probably heard that Akatsuki is made up of only 9 members. That's not quite true. The 9 known members are the only ones that look for vessels. The others do regular missions. Us 9 are known as Akatsuki. We bring every vessel we find here, though none of them were as much trouble as you. He gave Kit a sidelong look. And still we could not bring you. You came on your own. He shakes his head. Before we start, Naiko told me to teach you how to reuse your chakra. It is true that you have to relearn it, but before you can do that you have to have what is called a baptism. I will give it to you. I will explain how it works. When a human and another spirit fuse, the chakra system is messed up. The person is unable to use it. The only way to fix it is to have another Hanyu or human spirit mix force some of his chakra backwards through the other's system. It is extremely painful because 1. The chakra goes in backwards and 2. It is similar to Haki Rakuju Yonshu, divination, 64 strikes. Are you ready? Kid winced but nodded. He remembered the time when Niji had hit him with it during the chunin exams. It was only because of Kyuubi that he had won the match. Itachi began by entering the Hyuga's gentle fist pose. You are in range of my divination. The green yin-yang appeared under him, with the other parts showing up afterwards. Haki Rakuju Yonshu. He begins to strike Kit's Tenketsus. 2 strikes. 4 strikes. 8 strikes. 16 strikes. 32 strikes. 64 strikes of Haki. Kit falls to the ground. The pain was excruciating. It was like being encased in dry ice and then having it shatter, ripping his skin off piece by piece. He wanted to howl out his pain, but it was impossible. His body began to shake violently. And then it stopped. The pain was replaced by warmth. His chakra paths had been fixed and the energy was now flowing the way it was supposed to. It filled him, erasing any damage that had been done to him. Kit sighed. That hurt. He tries to mold his chakra but still cannot, but this time he could feel it moving. Itachi only laughs. Here. He helps Kit up. There should be no lasting effects. Now I will teach you how to use your new chakra. He grabs Kit's hand and draws a black spiral in the middle of his palm. Focus your energy on the spiral. Imagine it starting at the outer edge and following the line to reach the center. Kit closes his eyes and focuses on the mark. As Kit does this, the ink slowly becomes a dark violet. When it reaches the center, it begins to rise from his palm, much like a laser. He opens his eyes. When he saw the chakra rising from his palm, he lost concentration and it disappeared. Very good. I didn't expect you to get it on your first try. Kit keeps staring at his palm. Was that mine? I thought it would either be blue like mine used to or red like Kyuubi's. Itachi shakes his head. Nope. Your chakra had become one. The colors mixed and became stronger. For now we will work with low-level ninjutsus. Naiko will teach you taijutsu and some ninjutsu as well. I will teach you jinjutsu. Let's get started. Several months later, Kit was much stronger than he had ever been. He had come a long way from what he used to be. He had been fully accepted by the Shadow Council and was now a Kage Genin. He might have been higher, but he had no team. His taijutsu was very strong now. He had been taught in the 7 Luminary style. A long-forgotten style, except for the shadow. The only ones capable of learning it were demons, spirits, and their vessels. Otherwise it couldn't be copied. It used a mix of both light and darkness, human and demon. With spirits it used aura to attack, while with tailed demons, it used the tails to their advantage. It had taken a long time to learn it, but when he did, Kit was very pleased with the results. Itachi had taught him all there was to know about Ninjutsu, and he was now capable of performing the Tsukiyomi. Kyuubi had taught him a few elemental jutsus, mostly earth and water, but no fire or wood. Kyuubi had flatly refused to teach him those, and even if he would have, Kit wouldn't have wanted them. Both he and Kyuubi had a deep hatred of fire and heat. They had less hatred for wood, but they still didn't like it and wouldn't teach or learn it. The day he would receive his first B-class mission. Before he went to see the Onigage, he had sealed a portion of his power. The seal, located on the palm of his right hand, looked like a 9-pointed star with a different kanji at each tip. Overall it was less than 1.5 inches in diameter. The seal had caused his power levels to be the same as a high-level chunin from an unknown village. He would not tell what village he was from unless they already knew. An interesting fact about the Shadow was that every one of their genin could rival most chunin, so he was limiting himself to Shadow genin level. He didn't mind. He would be on a team with other chunin and a jounin based on their sealed levels, and if needed, they could all alter the seals to let them use more or all of their power. He quickly walked into the Onigage's office. Naiko-sensei. What's the mission? Naiko smiled and handed over a small scroll. You, Itachi, and 2 people of your choice will be helping an old friend of mine. His name is Major Alexander Armstrong from the Hidden Alchemy Village. He is also known as the Strong Arm Alchemist. You will be taking over from him as escort for the Elric brothers. Their names are Edward, Akka the Fullmetal Alchemist, and Alphonse. They prefer to be called Ed and Al. They have been on a mission to create a Philosopher's Stone. Ed lost his right arm and left leg while performing the forbidden human transmutation, while his brother lost his entire body. Then how can he still be alive? I was just getting to that. Ed gave his arm in order to seal his brother's soul into a suit of armor, much like the Yondaime did to the Kyuubi. Ed now has artificial limbs made from automail. You will meet them at Grand Central, Alchemy Village. You may use the teleportation room because they need you there as soon as possible. Get going. Maybe they will teach you some of their jutsus. Kit ran off to get his team. As soon as they were ready, they went to the teleportation room. The room was pure white on the walls and ceiling. The floor was mostly white but had black seals and scribes in it. His team stood in the middle, then activated the runes on the floor. For each mission it was pre-programmed to take them to a certain place. In this case it was the hidden alchemy village. Over the course of the next 2 months he followed the short blonde man and his armored brother. During that time they taught him all of the laws of alchemy as well as how to create arrays. Because of his demon side he caught on quickly and at the end of the 2 months he was nearly as good as Ed at it. He no longer had to use arrays, he could do it the way Ed did, which was much easier. As a gift for teaching him, Kit taught Ed and Al the Cage Bunshin no Jutsu. They were fairly good at it. They could at least create 4 clones of themselves. The mission ended when Major Armstrong came back and took over the escort. Kit was sad that he had to leave, but he promised the brothers that they would meet up again. As soon as he returned, Naiko told him that it was time that he returned to Konoha. The chunin exams would be taking place soon and he wanted Kit to enter as a leaf nin. He would still be part of the shadow, the leaf just wouldn't know. It wouldn't matter anyway. The shadow didn't get in any wars that weren't waged against them. They did missions and hunted missing nins, that was all they did for the villages that knew of its existence, though none of them know where the village was. Kit didn't want to return just yet, but Naiko made it very clear that he was to go. He had no choice in the matter. Naiko said that he could walk instead of using the room. Kit gladly accepted, it would be good for him to train and to think about what he would do once he got there. Kit set off at midnight the next day. He preferred to be out at night, it was more fun for one thing. Before he got to Konoha he stopped at the clearing he had made 1 year ago. It was just as bare as when he had left. Just for fun he decided to use alchemy to create a headstone there. On it he inscribed, "Here lies what remains of the demon of Konoha. Reincarnation will play its role and a new demon will rise from the ashes of the last. May his enemies quake in fear of his successor, for he will be more powerful than the last and all the village has to blame is itself." Then flashback, Kit awoke in the blackness of his den, smirking at his last memory. Yes, all they have to blame is themselves. With that, he set about creating what would be his new home. Chunin exams. Kit sat looking around at the blackness around him. The darkness didn't bother him, it was that the darkness was all there was. So he set about creating his new home. Trees arose out of the darkness. It was like watching an entire forest grow right before your eyes. His home would be as nature, only with a few changes. He used his mastery of Doton and Suiton to create a river running along one side of the clearing and a hot springs a few meters away from that. On the other side he set up a hammock between 2 large trees. He would not want to sleep in that every day, so he made a very large, very soft mattress on the ground next to the hammock. On top of that thousands of small pillows appeared. He would be able to burrow himself in it if he got really sleepy or bored. The grass in the clearing was of the deepest green and moss grew a few feet up some of the trees. It would be perpetual twilight in his den, but in the center and close to the water, many glowing crystals rose out of the ground. Satisfied with his work he went towards the white gate. The moment he stepped out his face lit up with a maniacal grin. He smelled it. The one thing that he would love more than anything to sink his claws and fangs into. He smelled snake. And not just snake, he smelled cursed blood, the stench that came from a cursed seal. He smelled Sasuke and Orochimaru. He was so intent on his bloody fantasies, he didn't notice the 4 people that were watching him. Sakura, having heard that there was a hot guy on Ino's team, had immediately set off looking for the redhead. She couldn't find him anywhere. That was when she met up with Ino and Choji, Shikamaru was off on a mission. They had also been looking for Kit. They hadn't seen him since he disappeared and they were worried. They asked around the village to see if anyone knew where he was. After 5 hours someone told them that he had seen a hot red-haired guy going towards the forest. Hearing this they ran off towards the woods, where they ran into Hinata. She had also heard that Kit had come here. For some reason, he reminded her of Naruto. Hinata had come several hours earlier and had been witness to a strange sight. The guy who reminded her of her crush had walked out of a gate that had opened up in one of the trees across from where she had been searching. She saw him stop suddenly and grin evilly. She watched intently until she felt a hand on her shoulder. She nearly fainted from fright before she noticed that it was only Sakura, Choji, and Ino. They asked if she had seen Kit. Hinata only pointed behind her. All 4 of them watched the boy. He seemed to be really happy about something, he was grinning like crazy before a wave of intense killing intent washed over them. Instinctively they knew it wasn't them it was aimed at, but no one else was around. That was when his shapeshift began to falter. His hair flashed between red and blonde and his cloths changed color between black and orange. A strong wind kicked up behind him. Hinata activated her Byakugan and gasped at what she saw. Violet chakra was leaking out of the boy, making the dust storm around him. He suddenly calmed down and collapsed. Something was glowing behind his full form. Everyone rushed over to see if he was okay. It seemed that he had collapsed from chakra exhaustion. After she knew he was alright she walked up to the glowing object and deactivated her taijutsu. What she had seen was a complex jutsu that had been performed on the tree in front of her. No wonder he had collapsed. That seal must have taken a lot of chakra to make, and it looked as if he had just awoken. "We should take him to Tsunade-sama," said Sakura while she was picking him up. Hinata, Ino, and Choji ran to help her, though she didn't need it. Kit was surprisingly light. They left him with Tsunade, who had been just as worried as they had been. As soon as they left, Kit woke up. He yawned before cracking his neck. He knew that Tsunade was standing behind him. "Don't worry, Bachan. I'm fine. Just used up too much energy creating my home. Orochimaru and Sasuke are here, by the way. They must be here for the exams." His eyes turned dark. "They're mine. No one else is to touch them." He smiled. "Besides, I'm not sure what they look like. They're probably using a henge. I just smelled them." Tsunade hit him on the head. "Idiot." Kit flinched. Even though he was a demon, that still hurt. "What was that seal on your arm? I wasn't able to find it in any of our scrolls." Kit laughed. "You wouldn't. It's a fusion seal. Only a few people who fuse get one. All it is a gauge for how close to completion the fusion is." He pulls up his sleeve, revealing the whole seal. It was 2/3 colored. 3 tails were ice blue, while another 3 were earth brown. The pattern they went in was brown, blank, blue, brown, ect. For some reason he couldn't get the last 3 tails to accept him. Kyuubi had said that it was something that they both had missed from the fusion. The tails had accepted him as he became more adept at controlling the elements that they were linked to. Kyuubi didn't know how many tails were attached to either element, but he was sure that Naruto had full mastery of Doton and Suiton, and that the last tails were not connected to those elements, but to something else. He would eventually figure out what it was. "So you haven't completely fused with the fox. Do you know why he attacked us 13 years ago? Kit frowned. "Yes, I do. It was Konoha's fault actually. Kyuubi had found a mate earlier that year. Their kids had just been born when a group of shinobi from Konoha attacked and killed all of them. Kyuubi had just returned when they were leaving. When she saw what they did, she swore that she would have revenge." "That's right, Kyuubi was a girl. A rather hot one at that." "Why thank you, Kit. That's also why she took me in as her own several years ago when I first learned of her." Tsunade was shocked. Kyuubi wasn't the bloodthirst killer Konoha thought it was. If what Kid Naruto said was true, no wonder he had fused with a demon. "Wait a second. Does that make you a demon?" She hoped that it didn't. Kid nodded. "I was a half demon anyway. Fusing with Kyuubi just made me a full demon. Not all demons are evil. Only the most known ones, besides Kyuubi, were. Most of them help people, even though people don't recognize it. Some people call them luck or chance, but it really is a demon helping someone. Demons have ranks as well, but I won't tell mine. They are kind of like shinobi, except for being more powerful and not having separate villages. They have only one village, close to the shadow, which is a Hanyu village. Only demons can enter either village. And no, I won't tell you where they are." Tsunade humped. "They would have made great allies. Oh well, at least Naruto's back, even if he is a demon. You should get going. The chunin exams start in 2 days and you missed out on a lot of training." Kit turns to leave. Later then Bachan. He ran out the door, just barely escaping the 1-ton desk that the Hokage had thrown at him. Geez. That woman is scary. 1 hour later, Sakura, Ino, Choji, and Kit were waiting at Team 7's bridge. Ino and Sakura were fighting over some boy, him, while Choji was eating from his never-ending bag of chips. Sakura was there only because of him. Kit was sitting on the bridge's railing watching the girls fight while talking with Kyuubi about what could be the problem with completing the seal. Sakura and Ino hadn't noticed when his hair had changed color earlier, not that they would have paid much attention to it. They were fighting over who was the best. It was obvious that they were still attached to Sasuke-kun, or so he thought. Kit growled mentally at the thought. Stupid humans. Forgive a traitor and condemn the demon. How did Naiko ever convince me to come back? Just then Kakashi appeared on the bride with a puff of smoke. Ino and Sakura yelled, "You're late." Kit was laughing on the inside at this. This could have been considered early for the masked jounin, he was normally 3 hours late. "Well, I saw a fish flying in the sky and stopped to watch it." A chorus of "Yeah right" followed his excuse. "Fine then. Today you will be training for the chunin exam, but before that." He gets an evil glint in his eye. Kit sees it. "No, no, no. Please don't be not again. You will be taking the bell test, this time as a team." He gives his students a bright smile while showing them the bells. "You have 3 hours starting now." All of them were groaning. Kit got an idea. Ino and Choji disappeared, they all knew the point of the test, but they still had to come up with a plan. Sakura stayed where she wasn't part of the team so she didn't have to help. When Kit didn't follow they thought that they were doomed. Kit made 13 random hand seals, just to make it look like a jutsu, before calling out Fox skill. Earthbind no jutsu. He shot out 6 of his tails into the ground, pushing his chakra into the ground. The earth below Kakashi turned into quicksand and he began to sink into it as another 6 tendrils of sand wrapped around Kakashi's hands, feet, waist, and neck. Hey Ino. Don't you think it would be nice if he handed the bells over? Ino caught on to the idea. Kakashi couldn't move, therefore there was no chance that she would miss. Shintenshin no Jutsu. She possesses Kakashi's body and Naruto pulls his tails back but not before Ino felt them. That was weird. That felt furry and it moved like it was alive. But nothing was there. She takes the 3 bells and hands them to everyone else. Kai. Her soul shoots back into her own body while Kakashi is still in a daze. You all pass. Kit, while no one was paying attention to him, created a bunshin. Afterwards he left using his Kage Hata no Jutsu while leaving the bunshin in his place while he went in search of the snake smell. His bloody fantasies started again. He would kill them both but not before they suffered. He would kill them slowly, giving the pain of 1,000 deaths before he would finally let them die. They would beg him to kill them, death would come as a gift but only after they felt a demon's wrath. As he neared the source of the stench, he dropped his shape shift. His hair became short, spiky, and bright blonde. He allowed his claws to extend a little bit and his fangs to grow. Lastly he shed his cloaking on his eyes and tails. No one would be around the snake. They were deep in the forest. His black cloths turned a light tan, almost white. He had 2 leather belts around his waist with silver buckles. The silver was the 9-tailed spiral, the symbol of the Kyuubi. His sandals turned into light but strong hunter's boots. He smelled the snake just ahead, not 20 feet away from him. He was talking with Sasuke. Kit decided to have some fun. He began to chuckle evilly while Kyuubi ate at her Kit, making it louder and more sinister. When the two started looking for the source of the intruder, his chuckling turned into a full-blown demon's laugh. They couldn't find him. Orochimaru called out, "Who's there? Show yourself, coward. Come and face me." Kit stepped out from the surrounding trees. His laughing had died down, but they could see that he was still laughing quietly. He turned to face Sasuke. Neither of the sound nins looked like they had when Kit had last seen them. They wore grass hit I-8 and had apparently stolen their identities. Both were using a henge. Well. I didn't think I'd see you so soon, team. You don't look like you did a year ago. Sasuke growled. Only one person had even called him that and he was dead. Who are you? And my name's not Sasuke. Kit laughed again. Of course you're not. And that man behind you isn't Orochimaru. Both grass nins gasped. The henge they were using was so strong that Kabuto had not been able to tell who they were. Kit scoffed, "Oh come on. You can change how you look but you can never erase your scent. And you both reek of snake." That was when they noticed the 9 tails swinging lazily behind him. Orochimaru murmured, "Kyuubi. How? You were sealed in Naruto." Sasuke gaped. The 9-tailed fox hadn't been killed. It was in the dobe. Well, that explained a lot. Kit shook his head. "You're close. But I'll leave you to figure that out for yourselves. See you in the exams." With that he turned to leave. He did not make it 10 paces before he heard, coming from behind, "Kaiten, Karyu Enden." He turns to see a dragon-shaped blast of fire rushing towards him. Shit. There's no time to block, even being water incarnate. Damn it. This is going to hurt. He braces himself for impact, knowing that it will do major damage. The flames reach him, but instead of burning him like it was supposed to, it wrapped around him. Nani? What's going on? His body was beginning to absorb the flames just like it did with the water and earth attacks 1 year ago. He feels the slight tingling on his bicep that always signaled another tail merging with him. He looks at the seal. One of the 3 blank tails was becoming blood red. He looks at the stunned Sasuke. Well, that was interesting. He continues his way back to his den while having a mental conversation with the Kyuubi. "I thought that I only had 2 elements. How can I have a third? Water and fire don't mix." "I never said that you only had 2 elements. I only said that I had 2. I didn't know if you had it, so I didn't say anything." "Have what? Haven't you heard of Konoha's will of fire? The old man Hokage was talking about it before he died. Anyway, you were born in fire country. Fusing with me must have caused the element to side with you, despite you also being water. Usually they don't mix. Matter of fact, they have never worked together before. Nature must like you to have gotten them to work together. That or they both like you enough to forget their quarrel. You're talking about the elements as if they were people. Why? In a sense, they are. All the elements are aware of themselves and can choose whom they will serve. Nature is really the combination of all elemental awareness. It is every element but does not side with just one. It stands for balance. Which is one reason why you have both. When we get to the den, I want you to go to the elemental room in your mind. Since you don't have a teacher for Kaiten, that element will teach you itself." When Kit was sure he was far enough away from the snake, he transformed back into his preferred form. He had much to think about. While all this was going on, Team 7 was having a sparring match. Kakashi was watching all of them and giving advice here and there. While his students were fighting, he noticed something strange about Kit. He was making all efforts not to get hit by Ino. That in itself was not very weird. Ino was scary when she was mad. No, it was that every time he almost got hit he made an overly strong chakra cushion to keep from getting hit. Something was not right about that. Kit had been known for his ability to take large amounts of damage and still keep fighting, proven when Tsunade knocked him through several walls and walked away like it was nothing. Yes, something was definitely not right about the boy. He called a halt for the day, saying that they should rest up for the chunin exams that was in 2 days. As his students were leaving he secretly followed Kit. The boy wasn't going to where his temporary apartment was, he was instead heading for the forest surrounding Konoha. Now, while no one was watching, he would find out if his suspicions were correct. He jumped down behind the boy, quickly striking his shoulder. For a moment nothing happened. Then the boy burst into a puff of smoke. Just as I thought, a cage bunchen. But how did he manage to make it and leave without me noticing? And why did he leave for that matter? I'll have to ask next time I see him. It had felt his bunchen disappear just before he made it to the gate to his den. It seems I was found out. I hope Kakashi doesn't say anything about it. The gate tree was just ahead. Kid extended one claw and nicked his thumb, swiping the blood across the entrance key. The gate tree seemed to grow, while a shimmering black hole, surrounded by a ring of white, opened up in the tree. Kid stepped through into the world of his own creation, the gate closing behind him, still leaving the outline of the gate on the inside, but no trace on the outside. Kid sighed as he walked towards the pile of cushions. All he wanted to do was relax. It had taken a lot of willpower not to rip that bastard's throat out then and there. Shaking his head to clear himself of his thoughts he launches himself at the soft pile. The moment he landed he buried himself deep into the cushions, even though it was always twilight in this world, he wanted absolute darkness for just a little bit. It would take too much effort to change his surroundings, so he settled for the darkness inside the pile. He made it to the bottom and sat down to meditate. That was the easiest way for him to reach the elemental room. When he was first learning to meditate it had been hard, he couldn't clear his head for more than 3 seconds. Eventually he was able to just sit and think of nothing or consciously enter the world inside his mind. Before it had taken a near-death experience of Kyuubi pulling his consciousness to bring him there. Now he could enter the room with only a little bit of meditation. Within moments he was inside the world of his mind. It was no longer the damp sewer that it had once been. Now the world of his mind was like a palace hall. The walls, floor and ceiling were of white marble. Elegant pillars ran down along both walls. Atop each pillar was a bowl of oil that had been set alight, softening the walls. He made his way to the cage where the Kyuubi had once been imprisoned, it was now the elemental room. The gate was still closed, but many of the bars were missing, allowing the chakra to flow freely from within. From outside you could not see what was behind the gate. The gate itself was no longer rusted, but made of gleaming gold. Where the tag that had red seal was, now the kanji for water, earth, and fire, are now written. Well, that's new. Fire wasn't there last time. He steps through the gate, it was only there to keep it separate from the rest of his mind, but not to keep him out or them in. Inside the room the sky was lit up as it would be at sunset, painted with rosy hues of pink, red, orange, yellow, and blue. The mountain peaks were also painted while the sky was reflected in the waters below. In the sky sat a red sun, hanging low on the horizon. That had not been there before and was the cause of the color change. It was a wonder sight. In the sky a voice was heard, it was old, very old, yet it sounded young at the same time. It crackled like a flame and held the warmth of one as well. Young one. Come up and sit with me while I teach you the ways of the flame. I am one who was born at the beginning and only at the end will I be extinguished. I have chosen you to wield my flame, thus I will teach you all I know. The sun began to shrink and change form until a man of 18 years stood before him. His cloths were black in places, but most of it shimmered like a fire dancing upon wood. His hair was red and reached to his neck, while his eyes held a warmth like none he would ever see. He stood atop the highest mountain and beckoned for him to join him. It quickly ran up, this being inside his mind, he made it up in less than a minuet. The man beside him spoke. My name is Kaizen. I am the consciousness of flames. Follow me and I will teach you everything there is to know about fire and its techniques. He takes Kit to his palace where for the next 3 weeks. Because this was inside his den where he controls time, it was only 2 days on the outside. When he emerged from the world of fire inside the elemental room, another tale had accepted him. The last would only come when he had full mastery of fire. The day was the day that the chunin exam would take place and he was almost late for it. His teammates were waiting for him outside the exam building. Ino and Choji yell, "You're late. And where have you been these last 2 days?" Kit shrugs, well at least I'm here now aren't I? I've been training. Let's go before we really are late. They rushed to the exam room, making it just on time. They all knew what to expect. But what they didn't expect was who the instructor was. They entered just as everyone was picking numbers for where they were to sit. Tsunade was standing at the front of the room. All of the leaf nins present bowed murmuring Hokage-sama as they walked by. Only the last person didn't, that one said. "Hey Bachan. Where's our instructor?" Before being punched through the wall. Of course this person was Kit. He had been told everything ahead of time. They all took their seats as Tsunade passed out the tests. "I will be your examiner for the first part of the exam. For those of you who don't know, I am Tsunade, the 5th Hokage. Here are the rules for the exam. There will be no fighting without the permission of the examiner. Even if permission is granted, killing your opponent is forbidden. If you disregard the rules you will be failed immediately. Have I made myself clear?" Everyone in the room nodded, especially those from the Leaf. They knew what their Hokage was capable of, and it was scary. Now to start the first part of the test. You've all already been assigned seats, so take them. The first part of the exam is the paper test I just handed you. Everyone moved to their seats. Now on to the rules for the first test. Questions are not allowed, so listen well. The first rule. Everyone will start off with 10 points. The test has 10 questions, worth 1 point each. This test uses a subtraction system. If you answer all 10 questions correctly, you keep your 10 points. If you miss 3 questions you will have 7 points. The second rule. The combined scores of you and your teammates will determine whether you pass or not. The third and most important rule is this. Anyone caught cheating will have 2 points subtracted for every offense. If you lose all of your points, you and your teammates will be asked to leave. If you cheat you will only be hurting yourselves. The chunins around the room will be watching you closely. As shinobi trying to reach the level of chunin, act as proud shinobi should. The final question will be handed out at the 45-minute mark. The exam will last 1 hour. Begin. All of the first-year applicants first started to try to work the problems without cheating, but very few of them could they answer. Kid knew the real purpose of the test, but he knew the answers already. Being fused with an age-old demon definitely had its perks. He did not even bother to turn the test over. He had a jutsu that would write the answers for him without even turning the paper over. It raised his hand out level in front of himself, hand hovering over the test. His hand began to glow red. It was one of the combination jutsus that Kyuubi and the elements taught him. During his time in his mind the rest of his elements' consciousnesses came to him and taught him as well. Kaizen and the water element, Tsunami fought a bit before agreeing to help him. Aizen and Jishin had taught this jutsu to him, the earth element had taught him this. He whispered Joukai no Shiseki no Jutsu. Or Heaven's Book technique. It used fire to burn the answers into the paper being made of Earth's twin wood, knew the answers, and gave the fire a path to follow, creating the right solution. It could also be used to copy any text from anywhere. Having finished within minuets of the exam starting he was becoming a little bored. He activated an Imitsuki to watch what the others were doing while he pretended to sleep. Ino was using her Shintention on Sakura to get answers, he was pretty sure she would be giving them to Choji and try to him. Sakura was one of the chunin monitoring the exam, he had to admit that she was pretty smart. Choji continued to eat from his never-ending bag of chips. There had to be some kind of jutsu on that bag, he had been eating from it for at least 3 days straight. Hinata and Niji were using Byakugan. Kid quickly reinforced his cloaking of his tails, the Byakugan had been known to break through low-level cloakings. Sasuke, Orochimaru, and Kabuto were all using their henge, it was actually really strong, he would never suspected them if he hadn't smelled them before. They were acting as if they were having a hard time with the test. Seeing that most were doing well, he decided that now would be a nice time to take a short nap. At the 45-minute mark, only the Leaf, Sand, and Grass, Sound, had all their teams left. 1 or 2 other teams were still there. Tsunade walked to the front of the room. Okay. Now for the 10th question. Naruto continued to sleep, he knew what was going on, he just didn't care. Before we get to that I'd like to explain the additional rules for this question. These are the rules of desperation. First you must decide whether or not you will take it. One of the newer genins asked, why should we choose? Of course we'll take it. But what would happen if we chose not to? Tsunade smiled. If you choose not to, your points will be reduced to 0, so you will fail. Along with your teammates. Now for the other rule, if you choose to take it but answer it incorrectly that person will lose the right to take the chunin exam ever again. The genin that had spoken earlier gulped at that. What kind of stupid rule is that? Tsunade answered, those are the rules of desperation. Now you must choose. If you aren't confident you can choose not to take it and try again next year. All of the newer people, and ones that did not pass that level last year, began to think of their options, while those who had kept quiet to see what would happen. Tsunade spoke up again, those who do not wish to take the question raise your hand now. Once you have been confirmed, leave. The genin that had spoken up raised his hand. Forget this. I'll take it again next year. He got up and walked out the door with his teammates scowling at his back. After that several others raised their hands as well and left. In less than 5 minuets only half of those who had been present when the question had been given out were left. When she was sure that no one else would leave, she tried one more time. "I'll ask you one more time. Your life is riding on this decision. This is your last chance to quit." She waited a few moments. When no one else raised their hand, she smiled. "Good decisions. Now to everyone remaining the first test, I congratulate you on passing." One of the genins from Hidden Rain jumped up. "What about the 10th question?" Tsunade began to laugh. "There never was such a thing. Or you could say that the 2 choices were the 10th question. Then what were the first 9 questions for? They were pointless then." They were not pointless. They had already served their intended purpose to test your individual information gathering abilities. And based on how many you got right, it may make the next part of the exam easier. Now bring your papers up, and if your paper is blank, you will fail. She glared at Kit. "As I said, this was to test your information gathering abilities. So if your paper is blank, you either knew nothing and/or can't get info well." The genins lined up and gave her their tests. When Kit got to the front, Tsunade gaped at his paper. She had not seen him even look at the questions, yet they were all answered correctly. She had been watching him herself, and all she had seen was him sleeping. Kit smiled at her. "This is one of the things I learned while I was away." With that, he went back to his seat. When everyone had given her their papers, she turned to them. "I congratulate everyone on passing. But this is no time to be celebrating. The end of the next test at most will leave only half of you. The next part will be held at Practice Area 44, otherwise known as the Forest of Death. Those of you who wish to proceed will meet there tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I suggest you get some rest." Tsunade walked out the door, leaving some stunned and others bored. Kit was the first to leave the room. Kaizen, Tsunami, and Jishin had promised to teach him one jutsu each that only a demon lord could do. He rushed to his den and quickly jumped through the gate. Once again he entered the world of his mind. As he walked down the hall, he noticed a door that he had never seen there before. This door was different from all the rest. It had thick chains crossing in front of it. Bars had been laid behind the chains. He moved to try and open it, but found it locked and bolted. "Why can't I open this door?" "There's a very good reason that you can't, Kit. Behind that door are your memories of what happened the day you were born. Sometime I will unlock it for you, but not now. The elements are waiting, you should hurry." Seeing the wisdom in that, he ran to the elemental room. Upon entering, he saw Kaizen, Tsunami, and Jishin waiting for him. An. Kaizen is volcano, Tsunami is tidal wave, and Jishin is earthquake. For those who don't know, sorry I'm late. Tsunami replied, "Don't worry about it. It's not like time affects this plane anyway." Her voice was that of flowing water, soft and gentle, like it was a stream that was talking. Jishin spoke next. "We know that Orochimaru is in the exam you are taking. You will need these skills that we are going to show you. They cannot be copied, even if you are not using an Imitsuki. It requires the user to have the highest level of demon blood flowing through his or her veins. Only the 4 demon lords are capable of them, of which you are Lord of the South. I will teach you mine first." His voice was deep and gravely. It sounded like it came from the earth itself. All of the elements' voices were warm and kind when turned upon him, yet not so much when turned upon their opposite, as in Kaizen and Tsunami. They were scary when they were together, which thankfully was not often. "My skill is known as Doton, Onishuken Jutsu. Yomi Refudo. Or Earth Element, Demon Lord Technique. Underworld Rift. The seals are demon, rabbit, tiger, dragon, ram, demon. Now go over to the field over there and try it, but whatever you do for all these skills, when you practice, never put more than 1/25 of your chakra into it. You would just be practicing them, not trying to destroy Konoha. Then again, if you ever decided to get revenge of them, these skills would be perfect if you used 1/3 your chakra in each of them at the same time." The elements get an evil glint in their eyes. They were pretty pissed off at Konoha for what they had done to Naruto Kid. There were only 3 reasons that the village was still standing. 1. Naruto Kid was still there and wouldn't have liked it. 2. The old man, 3rd Hokage, had made a deal with them. And 3rd was that they didn't want to steal Naruto Kid's revenge from him if he did want it. He deserved it after all. Kaizen had nearly pulled his support and name from the entire Fire Nation. They were that pissed. Kid walked out onto the field and began practicing the seals. They were no particularly hard, so he began to try the jutsu. After 37 failed attempts, Kid was becoming discouraged. Nothing had taken him this long to get a result. On the 38th try, he slammed his hands into the ground, causing a rift 5 yards across, 20 yards long and an unknown depth. He stared down into the rift, too surprised to do anything else. He kicked a small pebble into the void, listening for the sound of it striking bottom. It never came. Kit turned back to Jishin, who was smiling broadly. "How deep is that?" The simple reply was to the core. Kit's jaw dropped. "You did very well. These are very high-power jutsus. So don't feel down if you don't get it right off. Tsunami will teach you hers next." Tsunami stepped forward. "To start, we should go to the lake. It will make it easier for you to learn it." When they reached the lake she started again. My skill is called Suiten, Oni Shuken Jutsu. Mizubashira no Yomi or Water Element Demon Lord Technique. Water Spout of the Underworld. This jutsu depends upon two things. 1. Whether you are near water or not. If you are not, you must use your chakra to create it. And 2. The size of the water spout. Do I have to explain more? Naruto shook his head. Good, the seals are demon, bird, dragon, ram, snake, demon. See if you can get this one quicker than Jishin's. Tsunami stepped back, giving Kid plenty of room. It walked out onto the water and did the seals. The water beneath him began to spin, but did not rise up. Must be using too little chakra. He tried again, but the same thing happened, only the current was stronger. That's when he got it. He would have to lift the water into the air or use the water already existing in it and then spin it. On his third try he nailed it. The water rose into the air while spinning. As it rose the spin became stronger until it was self-sustaining. Now all he had to do was use his chakra to move it. It got a wicked gleam in his eye before moving it so that Jishin and Tsunami got wet. They had already taught him everything they knew and it would be good for Kaizen to get a laugh before he was taught the fire jutsu. Said element was rolling on the ground, roaring with laughter. That was a good one. Use her own jutsu against her. He continued to laugh until a very annoyed, very wet Tsunami punched him in the head. He quickly calmed down. Well I guess it's my turn. It is like most other fire jutsus. Perform the seals, take a deep breath and release. This jutsu is most like the Karyuenden in that it takes a particular shape. That's where the similarities end. It takes the shape of a fox head and is much stronger than any other Kaiten technique. What's its name? Oh, sorry. It's called Kaiten Oni Shuken Jutsu. Kyuubi no Fyajikido. Fire Element Demon Lord Technique. Kyuubi's Fire Rage Inferno, whichever you prefer. The seals are demon, dragon, tiger, bird, fox, demon. Try to beat Tsunamis with this one. It stood at the edge of the lake, facing out over it. He did the seals while taking a deep breath. Kaiten Oni Shuken Jutsu. Kyuubi Fyajikido. A large fox-shaped flame shot from his mouth. As it passed over the lake, the water started to boil and evaporate. When he finished, the water returned but was still very hot. Kaizen was teasing Tsunami that Kid had gotten the fire technique quicker than he had the water. Kid was just surprised that he had gotten it on his first try. After a few minuets the elements walked up behind him. We have taught you everything we know. Eventually we may let you take over our jobs, but that won't be for a very long time. Now take what we have taught you and use it as you see fit. Hurry now, the next part of the exam is in 3 hours. But that he left the world of his mind, emerging in his den. The landscape in his mind immediately repaired itself when he left. Kid sat in his den, he would have to up his limiter before he left. Taking off his fingerless glove he examined the seal of his right hand. The 9 points of the star were glowing with different colors, while in the middle the kanji for the percent of his total power that he could use shimmered slightly. While in his den he had a limit of 50, but because of the new skills he learned he would have to take it down to 25. He dreaded to think how much he would have to limit himself after the 9th tail accepted him. The seal not only limited his power, but also made his technique that much weaker. Now all of his skills would be at only 25 of their original strength, but that was still pretty strong, considering who he was. He sighed as he put the glove back on, he only wore it on his right hand. He would have to hurry if he were to make it to Area 44 in time. He dashed out of him home and ran as fast as he could, limiter also affected his speed toward the next part of the test. He was the last to arrive at the second part of the exam. Anko had just finished explaining the objective of the test. Kid had heard it before so he didn't mind. He and his team signed the waivers and then went to their gate. Their plan was to head to the tower first, then attack any who came near until they got the second scroll. It would take 2 days to reach the tower at their speed, but that suited Kid just fine. The bell rang, opening the gates, and his team dashed off into the forest of death, which would most certainly live up to its name. The second seal. Time. Nothing happened on the first day. All the team of 4 did was run, and run some more. At the end of the day, the only one not tired was Kid. The rest were puzzled by this, but were quickly falling asleep, so they didn't ask. As they sank to the ground, Kid offered to take watch. As he watched his team sleep, he felt the need to spill blood. This was the first time that this had happened. It must be because of the snake bastards. Making sure that his entire team was asleep he created a bunchen. Leaving it in his place he leapt off into the forest, shedding his human form as he went. His hair became blood red, his ears became as the fox's. He revealed his 9 tails and slitted cerulean eyes. He extended his claws, making them sharp and hard. He was ready. Now all he had to do was find the snake and the bastard. A rustling sound was heard off to the right. The demon lord sniffed the air. Oh what luck. They are here already. He snickers, drawing their attention. So did you figure it out yet team? Or did you snake Senin? Sasuke spoke, show yourself, Naruto. You are the only person to ever call me that and live. And remove that stupid henge, you aren't scaring anyone. It stepped out into the clearing, quickly changing to human Naruto form. He begins laughing, so you figured it out. Surprised to see me? You thought you'd never see me again, didn't you? Both Sasuke and Orochimaru spoke at the same time, so it is true. Sasuke seemed puzzled, how did you survive? That move should have killed you. At that Kit quit laughing, but it did. Let me show you my other side. The reason why the fourth died and I was shunned. The boy sinks down onto all fours, growing fur, becoming the Kyuubi. The only difference was that in this form he had golden fur, not red. His eyes stayed blue, but lost their henge, changing to slitted. Orochimaru and Sasuke gasp. The Kitsune steps forward, this is my other side, the Kyuubi no Kitsune, nine-tailed demon lord of the south. As I became her kit, she merged with me after our fight. Now I am what she used to be and more. He changed back into Hanyu form and clapped his hands together. They began to glow blue before he slammed them into the ground, crying alchemic bindings. A small array formed beneath the pair, trapping their legs. To say that they were surprised was an understatement. No ninja had ever even heard of alchemy, let alone see it. They had no idea what the boy had just done, and he had not used chakra. I don't know what alchemy uses, besides equivalent exchange. If anyone knows, please tell me. Orochimaru was the first to speak. What was that? Both sound nins easily break out of the bindings. Naruto hadn't meant them to be anything but a distraction. That, my dearly hated enemy, is alchemy. And no Orochimaru, you will never learn to use it. Tonight both of you die. Sasuke threw a kunai at him, but was surprised when he caught it. The dope caught it. He couldn't believe it. The dead last had improved, it was time to see just how much. He activated the level 2 curse seal and charged, clipping Kit. You say that we would die tonight. I believe you are mistaken, tonight I will finish what I started years ago. He threw several shuriken at Kit who either dodged or caught them all. Well then. I will tell you my new name. It is Kit, Sennin of the Hidden Shadow. That reminds me, your brother really is a nice person. Sasuke tackled him, you met my brother. Where? Kit began laughing, he isn't the one you should be looking for. It was Orochimaru who killed your family. He made it look like Itachi. You lie. Orochimaru-sama would never do such a thing. He began to strangle Kit, but it burst in a puff of smoke. Bunshin. You have indeed gotten better. He activates his Sharingan. Sharingan. Animatsuki. His eyes become blood red. Kid holds out both hands, in one a red flame appears, in the other a black rock. Sasuke charges Kid, trying to stop him from whatever he was doing. Just before he got to him, Kid slammed his hands together. The flame caught the rock on fireboom. A shockwave from the blast shook the forest, awakening all of the chunin hopefuls. Ino jumped up. We should see what that was. Did you see anything, Kid? She looks over to see the boy sleeping. Wake up, idiot. She punches him in the head. The clone burst into smoke. Kid. Where are you? Oh god, I hope he wasn't in that blast. Hey everyone. Wake up. It disappeared and there's a major fight going on somewhere. The others sat up straight up at the words. Kid, missing, and fight. Ino yells we have to find him. If we don't we fail the exam. I don't want to be a genin for another year. She runs off into the forest, hearing towards the sound of battle. The others following after. Elsewhere, Gaara of the Sand was sitting up in a tree. Not sleeping as usual. He had felt the explosion and was slightly worried about it. The energy he felt was slightly familiar, but it was mixed up with something else. Shukaku was restless, the shockwave seemed to have the same effect on the demon. Looking down he saw Team 7 run underneath his tree, but there was no Kit. If he remembered correctly, Team 10 had 3 people, Kit, Ino, and Choji. Of course he didn't remember their names. His thoughts were more along the lines of Kit, yellow hair, and fat Kid. They seemed to be in a rush and just as worried as him, so he decided to follow them. When they reached the source of the explosion they saw 2 people fighting and 1 person standing on the sidelines. One had long blood red hair, fox ears and 9 tails. He was fighting someone from the grass. Inside Gaara's head Shukaku was yelling something about the demon lord of the south being free again. When Gaara questioned the demon he got only one word. Naruto. The pink-haired Kunoichi, is that how you spell it? I couldn't find it on my info site, turned to Gaara, what do you mean? Neither of them is Naruto, he died a while ago. The red-haired vessel gives Sakura a glare. Shukaku says that the 9 tails demon lord is free. He also said that it had been imprisoned in Naruto. But he also says that he is different. The chakra has increased and changed color. That is Naruto. I thought that the Kyuubi was killed by the 4th. Ino gives her a look, apparently not. That explains all the looks the villagers gave him and why he lives alone. Why did we not see it before? Back in the fight, Kid clapped his hands together and pushed them towards the ground. A sword began to rise. It was the same size as Zabuza's old sword. The core of the blade was a bluish green with brown designs crossing it, while the edge was red. The sword's colors represented Kit's elements, just like the incomplete merger gauge. Sasuke also pulled out a sword, it was Orochimaru's Kusanagi. They were about to clash when Gaara sent in his sand to stop them. Its tails twitched in agitation. What did you do that for? It's simple. Now is not the time for this. And I believe you have some questions to answer, Naruto. Kit stopped trying to break out of the sand at the sound of his birth name. So you figured it out, huh? Just at that moment Orochimaru jumps to Sasuke's side. This isn't over yet. We will meet you in the finals. There you will perish. Both snakes disappear in a puff of smoke. Gaara releases his sand and walks over to Kit, who had just returned to his human form, once again hiding his tails. Who was that? Someone I really want to kill, and that's all you need to know about them. Changing the subject. How did you know that was me? Ino answered that. Gaara said that Shukaku said that it was you. He also said that the Kyuubi is sealed inside you. Is that true? And how are you still alive? She really hoped that the Kyuubi was a lie. Kit gave a glance at Gaara, so you've begun to talk to each other, have you? Good. He may let you sleep now. Turning to Ino, and in a quiet voice. Yes, that was true. Ino looks at the ground, oh I'm sorry. Wait. You said was. What about now? Kit gives her a big grin. Now I'm Kyuubi. Seeing the group's shock and fear he says, don't worry. Kyuubi attacked only because Konoha killed her family. She's not a threat anymore, and I never was. If I had wanted to kill you I would already have done it. Ino looks over at Choji, that makes sense. I would have wanted revenge if someone killed my family. She looked back to Kit, what should we call you now? Kyuubi, Naruto, Kit or something else. Doesn't matter. Here's something I picked up while I was on watch. He pulls out 2 scrolls, one heaven and one earth. We can go to the tower now. I will answer the rest of your questions there. Later, inside the tower, after Team 7 had used their scrolls and summoned the teacher, everyone that knew Kit or Naruto surrounded him. They all wanted to know what was going on. Kit sighed before starting. Yes, I am Naruto, or was. Now I am the Kyuubi, but I prefer to be called Kit. As to how I am still alive, after Sasuke had killed me, Kyuubi gave me her power and made me Kyuubi, keeping both of us alive. Since then I have been traveling around several real hidden villages. And no, I won't tell you about them. It's forbidden. Anything else? Neji popped up, did you learn any seal removal jutsus? The hope of finally getting rid of his caged bird seal was making him more social than he would usually be. Kit smiled, yep. But it will take a while to set up. I'll do it after the finals or the preliminaries, depending on how many finish this part. Ino spoke next, who were you fighting? Not Tiling, you'll find out when we fight next. Neji gave him a look, so you know. It was a statement, not a question. Of course I do. And who knows, you may even know him as well. Just then Tsunade burst through the door. Good, you're all here. The second part of the exam is hereby over. She summoned a few Anbu to her side, go retrieve any still out in the forest that are still alive. She turned back to those present. Let's see leaf, grass, and sand. That's all. Well then it seems that there won't be a preliminary round this time. Please follow me and we will start with the finals. You know the drill. Anyone who does not wish to proceed may quit now, it won't hurt your team. The finals will be a one-on-one match with no rules. Defeat your opponent and proceed to the next round. Even if you don't make it to the final round you may still pass. All of you may become chunin, but then again, maybe none of you will. So, who's quitting now? She looked around at those assembled. No one. Well then, let's get this started. First round. Kid Bikyu vs. Yutaki Sora. Will those two please step forward, the rest of you stand on the balcony until it's your turn. And remember, these matches will be broadcasted to every hidden village. So do your best. As the others walked up the stairs as Kit faced Sora. So that's what you're calling yourself these days, team. For those of you who haven't guessed, it's Sasuke. Shut it up. Tsunade stepped between them, begin. She disappeared in a puff of smoke. The battle started slow enough, a few thrown shuriken and kunai. The two faced off using nothing but taijutsu and their tools. Here they were about even, it seemed that the snake's training had done the bastard some good. On the other side, Sasuke was fuming, how did the dope get this good? Last time should have killed him. Come to think of it, how did he survive? Sasuke decided that now was as good a time as any to ask his question. How did you survive our last battle, dope? He said as he threw several more punches. His opponent just laughed. Oh, yes. How did I survive? It was quite simple, and I must thank you for it. It is a bloodline that awakens during near-death experiences. And because you killed me, well, it is now permanently active. The kitsune laughed again. Sasuke was not happy. Not only was Naruto laughing at him, but Sasuke had unwittingly helped him activate an unknown bloodline. Let's see if it rivals mine. He growled, activating his Sharingan, even though it was hidden behind his Genjutsu. Oh ho ho, you're going to use that, are you? Well then, I'll just have to use mine now, won't I? He placed his hands in the demon seal and gathered his Yaki, closing his eyes. Demon form. An Imitsuki. Second level. The ground began to rumble as the demonic energy began to swirl around Naruto. He snapped his eyes open, revealing 9 lines connecting the outside of his iris to his pupil. The lines were blood red, contrasting greatly to the ice blue of his normal eyes. A golden pentagram surrounded the iris as well, the lines just brushing the sides. The pentagram began to spin as he added more chakra to his eyes. Let's get this started, shall we? I'm done warming up. Sasuke nodded and the two opponents charged each other. The following battle was so fast that very few could actually see what was happening. Several different color streaks and explosions were scattered across the arena as the two battled it out. Those that could see what was happening were shocked. High-level jutsus were being tossed out and taken as if they were nothing. And those that could sense the power level being used by the combatants was even more shocked when they realized that a Senin level battle was taking place in the chunin exam. Kakashi sweat dropped, they are at Senin level in strength. I'm surprised that both of them haven't started countries of their own. He was using his Sharingan eye and saw that it was Sasuke that Naruto was fighting. He would leave the capture to Tsunade and Jiraiya after the battle was finished. He was sure that they knew. Suddenly the two were forced apart as Sasuke's teammate, Orochimaru, hurled a sword in between them. Use this. Make sure you don't lose. He shouted. Sasuke ran forward and grabbed Tsunade, SP, before rushing Naruto, intending on ending the boy's life once and for all. Naruto smirked, a sword duel it is then. He clapped his hands together and slammed them into the ground, a blue light spreading from his palms. His sword rose from the earth as he drew his palms from the ground. Meet my little friend, Yasuken. How is that little? Thought Sasuke as he stared at the intricately crafted sword. It was 5 feet long and 9 inches wide. It had the kanji for fire, wood, earth, and water inscribed on both sides of the blade in red, green, brown, and blue. At the base of the blade was a 4-colored gem. The battle progressed from there with the exception that in combination with the various jutsu being used, the clash of steel meeting steel could be heard along with yellow sparks flying when they locked blades. Each side tried every trick they knew to defeat the other, but to no avail, they were too evenly matched. The match would have to be decided through summons, decided Sasuke. He already knew that Naruto could summon frogs and he could summon snakes. Time to see which was stronger. Aichis no jutsu. There was a gigantic puff of smoke. When it cleared, Sasuke was standing on the head of the snake boss. Hey? What am I doing here? Hey Brad. What's the idea of bringing me here? The giant snake looked around. It's you. The snake roared. It didn't give him time as he called out, Kaichis no jutsu. Special. Second in command. Akahirameki Kid threw one arm to the side as the summon appeared beside him. What you want, boss? The kitsune said as he bowed to Kit. Flashback, Kit was sitting in his den, talking about some of his new powers. Even he did not know them all, Kyuubi was several 100,000 years old after all. One of his questions was whether he could still summon Gamabunta or not. Kyuubi said probably not, but did that ever stop him? So off he went and attempted to summon. It worked, but not like he expected. Instead of one animal, he got 2. A fox and a frog. They both jumped at him. The frog, Nai-san. It was Gamakichi. Kyuubi-sama. Yelled the fox Kit. The frog was sitting on his left shoulder while the fox took the left. They glared at each other across their summoner's head. Naruto was confused. Sure, he had fused with Kyuubi, but he had never signed a contract with the foxes. Was there even a contract for foxes? Or was there something Kyuubi wasn't telling him? Oh, I forgot to tell you. You are now the leader of all kitsune, normal and summon. And I destroyed the last contract, so you'll have to make a new one sometime. Until then you don't have to worry about anyone summoning you. Well, have fun. Kyuubi retreated to the back of his mind, chuckling quietly. Aka Kitsune. Then flashback, I need you to make a shield, make sure that none of them, he pointed at the stands, get hurt. The fox nodded. Back in the stands everyone was surprised. The battle had just gone up another notch. Summons. Not only that, but one of the summons had called its summoner their boss. Was he really their boss or was it just a term for the summoner? Sasuke sneered at Naruto, are you really so weak that you can't even summon their boss? The snake below him muttered something about trying not to anger the other, but it was ignored as Sasuke continued, heh, you will never beat me. Once a dead last, always a dead last. Naruto was beginning to get annoyed and yelled, there's a reason that I didn't summon the boss. Or I should say can't, as you'll soon find out. He began doing seals at a pace that even the Sharingan couldn't follow, not to mention that there were seals involved that a human could not use. Demon Jutsu. Transformation. Full demon form. He yelled as he sank down on all fours. The popping of bones could be heard across the stadium as his body lost its human shape. He began to grow reddish-orange fur as 9 tails shot from his tailbone. Last he increased in size until he was slightly larger than the snake boss. I am the boss. And hello again Orochi, you miss me? The snake lunged at Kid, intent on revenge. A while ago the two had gotten in a fight over something small. Neither of them could remember what it was over. But in the end, Kid won and Orochi had left, missing part of his tail. It had taken him months to regrow it. Kid dodged, getting a slight nick on his right flank. Ah. You know better than that, Orochi-kun. Kid whirled and hit Orochi's tail. The snake smirked. Right where I want you. Snake jutsu. Forced ninja form. He said as he bit Kid, who couldn't move because Orochi had wrapped his tail around the kitsune. Kid had been forced back into his human form and Orochi began to crush him while Sasuke was laughing, still standing on the snake's head. I will have the power to defeat my brother. The crowd gasped. Those who did not know before had just came to the conclusion of the boy's real identity. Others were just surprised that he had let it slip. Orochimaru just covered his face as a large sweat drop appeared on the back of his head. Baka. Kid struggled to get out from under the snake's coils. He tried everything that he could, but none of it worked. Wait. I still have those. He then formed his one-time favorite seal, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 2 clones poofed in next to him. They began to push on the snake just enough to let Kid scramble out from under it, though it took some contortions that should not have been possible, even for a demon. As soon as he was out, he and his clones took up positions opposite each other. There were 3 kids so it was they were a little off from that, they were equal distance from each other. Sasuke sneered once again, what do you think 2 Bunshins can do against me? Kid smirked, this. Both he and his clones began the seals that would change, or end, history forever. Then all at once they called out, Oten, Oni Shuken Jutsu. Yomi Refuto. Suiten, Oni Shuken Jutsu. Mizubashira no Yomi. Heitan, Oni Shuken Jutsu. Kyuubi no Fyajikido. For a second nothing happened. Sasuke smirked. Then he was gone. He had ceased to be. And that was when all hell broke loose. From nowhere giant waves crashed through Konoha, the sky turned crimson as fire fell like rain. The earth cracked and split to its core. At a place where all 3 met, a darkening rift began to form and the elements began to merge together, feeding on each other's energy, becoming self-sustaining. Fire and water raged against each other across the earth. All life was instantly vaporized as the fire rained down, the water from the sea rose up and covered the land as the land split open to swallow it all. A geyser of steam rose from the gaping hole in the earth as the waters of the world came in contact with the molten core of the world. The molten rock began to solidify, freezing the lifeblood of the planet. And in the darkness, nothing was left. Nothing at all. Just before all that happened Orochimaru, knowing what was going to happen, decided that he would have his own revenge. He would not allow the kitsune peace and death, no, the kid would be tortured for the rest of time, however long that was. Or so he thought. Shiki Fujin no Jutsu. The god of death, the Shinigami, phased in behind the snake Sennin before plunging its hand through the snake's soul. Kid was frozen in fear. He knew what this jutsu was capable of. The hand of death touched him and stopped. And death spoke. The rules have been violated. This one cannot be sealed again. Once sealed, one can never be sealed again. And this one will not be sealed. I owe this one a debt for the release of my son. Death withdrew its hand from the snake's soul and disappeared, reappearing behind Kid. Come with me. He grabbed Kid and pulled him into his own dimension. As the world ended outside, Kid found himself in a world of darkness. Behind him came a voice. As I said before, I owe you a debt for the release of my son. It was your chakra that freed him. Therefore you shall not die now. In fact, no one has to. Time. That is my other name. I shall send you back in time. When you will appear I do not know, that it up to fate. But you will still know everything that you do now and retain all of your powers and strength, along with a gift from me. Let me see that sword. He grasped the Senyasaken. A fine blade. And to it I shall add some power. Under me I have lesser Shinigami. Each one of them wields a sword called a Soul Slayer. At the shocked and horrified look on Kid's face he continued. Don't worry. It doesn't really kill the souls, but it can hurt them. It allows them to fight the evil souls of the dead, the ones that have been consumed by darkness, and purify them. They are able to send the good souls who have not gone to rest to heaven. The evil ones will be sent to hell. Kid nodded. That sounded okay. Death smiled. You understand. That's good. Because the reward for freeing my son is that you will become an elite Shinigami, my left hand, as my son is my right. He ran his hand along the edge of the sword, leaving a silvery edge to it. Here is your new and improved sword. I give you the 3-element Soul Slayer. Judgment. Death gave him a smile, but it was actually the scariest thing that Kid had ever seen. The smile of death was enough to kill most people with fright. Kid shuddered. Well, it's time to go. The head Shinigami opened up another portal and shoved Kid through it, giving one last comment, have fun. When he was gone, Death sat down in one of his many lazy boy recliners. Have fun indeed. I wish him the best of luck. Maybe it wasn't such a good idea to send him back. Oh well. What's done is done. We'll just have to see what happens. Time warp before Kid appears. Naruto and Team 7 were currently chasing after Madame Shijimi's cat. Again. Damn it. How many times can one cat run away? Thought Naruto, who had just tripped over a tree. This is the third time this week. Though I can't blame the poor thing. I'd run away too if that fat lady tried to strangle me with her hugs of death. I guess I can thank the damn fox for that at least. Suddenly from another part of the forest an annoying scream pierced the quiet. Sasuke-kun. You're the best. It seemed the bastard had caught the cat before him. Stupid icha. Mumbled Naruto. 10 minutes later found Team 7 gathered around the rendezvous SP point. Naruto glaring at Sasuke, Sakura fawning over him, and Sasuke ignoring it all. There was a poof of smoke and a familiar, yo. As Kakashi appeared before them. He ignored the usual "you're late" from his subordinates as he proceeded to lead them back to the Hokage Tower. Everyone present winced as Madame Shijimi hugged her cat. The Sandaime sighed, there should be some kind of animal cruelty law being infringed upon her, but it's the daimyo's wife. It wouldn't be good to anger him. He sighed again as he began looking for another mission for the rookie Genin team. Okay, Kakashi's Team 7, your next mission is to babysit an elder's grandson, shopping in the neighboring village, and helping dig up potatoes. Naruto's face fell at each new mission until finally, he burst. No 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 no. No thank you. I want a more exciting mission. Find us a better one. Sasuke glared at him but was inwardly agreeing with him. Sakura was thinking about how annoying Naruto was and Kakashi, well, he should have seen this coming. Iruka, who was assisting the Hokage that day, jumped up and started yelling at him, using his infamous demon head no jutsu. You idiot. You're just a rookie. Everyone starts off like this and works their way up. Naruto started yelling back, but all we're getting are the crappiest missions possible. Kakashi hit him over the head with a quick, shut up. Sandaime sighed, Naruto, it seems I have to explain to you what these duties are all about. Every day the village receives numerous requests, from babysitting to assassination. Each request is written down in these lists, he said, indicating the papers scattered across his desk, and then divided into an ABCD ranking based on difficulty. The missions are handed out to ninjas based on their rank and abilities. If completed successfully we receive payment from the client. You guys just became shinobi, so D-rank missions are perfect for you. Naruto was sitting facing away from the Hokage, talking to himself. Last night I had pork ramen, so miso sounds good for. Hey. Listen. Sandaime yelled. Kakashi hit Naruto over the head again while muttering a quick apology to the Hokage. You know I'm not the troublemaking brat you still think I am. Naruto fed. Sarutobi smiled, okay then if you want it that much. Sakura and Kakashi gasped. I'll give you a C-rank mission. You are to protect a certain person. Who? Who? A feudal lord? A princess? Come on. Tell us. Yelled Naruto. Calm down, I'm about to introduce him. Hey. Will you come in here? Sarutobi yelled at the door. The door opened and in walked an old man, a little taller than Naruto, with a bottle of booze in his hand. What's this? The old man asked. They're just a bunch of super brats. He leaned against the wall. Especially the shortest one with the super stupid looking face. Are you really ninja? Hey. Naruto looked at both sides before jumping at the old man, who you calling microscopic? I'll kill you. Kakashi grabbed hold of the orange-clad ninja before he could do any damage. What's the point of killing the person we're supposed to protect? Baka. The old man began to introduce himself. I am the super expert bridge builder Tazuna. I expect you to provide me super protection until I get back to my country and complete the bridge. He said with an uninterested look. Kakashi, sensing their client's impending doom, stood before his students. Meet me at Konoha's North Gate in 1 hour. Don't be late. Dismissed. He disappeared, ignoring the looks the three genin gave him. An hour later, Team 7 were all at the gate, even Kakashi. It's the end of the world. Wait, that already happened, never mind, let's go. Yelled Naruto. Can't he ever be quiet? Thought Sasuke and Sakura. What are you so excited about? Asked Sakura. It's the first time I've ever been outside the village. Azuna glanced at Kakashi. Hey. Am I really going to be safe with this brat? Kakashi smiled, though you couldn't see it, inwardly he sighed. I'll have to work on that sometime. Don't worry. I'm a jounin. Behind him, Naruto glared at them. I should have killed the old man when I had the chance. Hey, old man. Don't mess with ninjas. I'm incredible. One day I'll be Hokage. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. Remember it. The Hokage is the village's #1 ninja, right? I doubt someone like you could make it. He took another swig from his bottle. Shut up. I'm prepared to do anything to become Hokage. Once I become Hokage you will acknowledge me. Screamed Naruto into Azuna's face. No I won't, brat. Even if you did become Hokage. That blew it for Naruto, I'll kill you. He lunged at the bridge builder. Kakashi caught him once more. I said stop it, moron. They continued, seemingly oblivious to the person or people watching them. Hey Tazuna, called Sakura, what is it like in Wave Country? Tazuna ignored her. She turned to Kakashi, sensei, do they have ninja in that country too? Kakashi shook his head, no, they don't. But they do in most other countries. Don't worry, there won't be any ninja combat on a C-rank mission. He noticed Tazuna look away at that. Seems Sasuke noticed him too. He looked down as they passed a puddle in the road. This will be a good experience for them. Let's see how they react. The group continued on, while behind them, two shinobi rose from the seemingly harmless pool of water. The two ran up behind Kakashi, the chains connecting them wrapped around the jounin. One down. They pulled on the chains. His team turned around just in time to see their sensei ripped apart by the chain connecting the two unknown ninja. Sakura screamed, Kakashi sensei. Naruto and Sasuke froze. Sasuke from not knowing what to do. Naruto froze, not from fear or not knowing what to do, but because he felt something tugging at him. Tugging at his seal, at his soul, and at his, and Kyuubi's, chakra. The two shinobi appeared behind Naruto, two down. They were about to do the same to him when the ground below Naruto turned into a black pit. They jumped back just in time to avoid falling in. Naruto, however, did not fall in. He was floating above the pit with a spaced-out look on his face. Suddenly a pillar of white, red, purple, and blue light shot from the pit and enveloped the boy. The two ninja were attempting to ignore this, heading straight for Sasuke, who was staring at the pillar of light. They would have had him too if it had not been for Kakashi, who jumped out from the trees and knocked the two away. He too was watching the pillar. The light suddenly stopped and Naruto fell to the ground. When he hit, a sound like shattering glass filled the area. He lay on the ground facing up, his shirt nowhere to be seen. On his stomach was a cracked seal. It pulsed once before exploding, sending the pieces across his body where they disappeared. On his right bicep was a tattoo. 9 tails spiraling out from the center. 3 blue tails, 3 brown tails, 2 red tails, and 1 tail that was rapidly filling with red. Kakashi looked on with dread. The seal that just exploded was the one that held Kyuubi. He hoped that he wouldn't have to kill one of the students on the first team that he had ever passed. But he would if he had to. Naruto doubled up and started shaking, or was that the ground around him? He stopped. Just like that. There was a flash of red light around the boy and he was no longer standing there. But a 4-foot-tall Kyuubi was. Kakashi rushed forward to attack it before it could get its bearings, but was stopped when a 5-foot-long sword thudded into the ground right in front of him. And slowly starting sinking into it. Kyuubi opened his eyes and looked around, his eyes lingering on each one of Team 7 for a moment before moving on. When he came to the 2 down shinobi, everyone on Team 7 was shocked to see its eyes widen and a foxy grin appear on its face. A deep groan came from his mouth as he chuckled, making the shinobi present almost wet themselves. So this is where he sent me. Just perfect. It glared at the two. Hello demon brothers. Here to assassinate a poor bridge builder are we? I'm sorry but I can't allow that. A tail whipped out from behind him to wrap around the twins. Kakashi moved to stop him but thought better of it. Nair Kyuubi, please don't kill them, let us take them back to Konoha for interrogation. Please. Kyuubi grinned at him, I had no intention of killing them. Just making sure they can't get away. He said as he retracted his tails. They're all yours now. Later. The kitsune dashed off into the forest surrounding them. The shock of seeing the fox finally wore off on the 2 remaining genin. Kakashi, you're alive. Yelled Sakura. Sasuke chen-ed before glaring at him, that was Kyuubi wasn't it? What was he doing here, wasn't he supposed to be dead? Kakashi sighed, the only one that would know anything about it isn't here anymore. He indicated the spot where Naruto had fallen, him or the Hokage. I can't say anything other than that. Just then a loud crashing was heard coming from the direction opposite that the Kyuubi left. And out from the underbrush popped a scratched up Naruto. He was still missing his shirt, giving all present a good view of his well-toned muscles. He groaned, what happened? Kakashi gave him a glare, to which he responded with a knowing smile. Sasuke just muttered, dope. And turning the other way, while Sakura proceeded to beat him up, not noticing that she wasn't landing any hits. Where were you? She screeched, we were attacked by ninjas and the Kyuubi showed up and all you have to say is what happened. Naruto dodged behind Kakashi muttering apologies. When everyone settled down, Kakashi gave Naruto a stern look, you and I need to talk. Naruto nodded, later. Kakashi went to go talk to Tazuna. Those were hit-and-miss chunins. He turned to them, you should know better than to hide in a puddle when it hasn't rained for days. Back to Tazuna. What were they after you for? This mission is at least B rank now. It was supposed to be a simple protection until you completed the bridge. Tazuna looked down. You probably had your reasons, but it causes problems when you lie about the mission. We're now outside of our duties. Naruto snuck up behind Kakashi, don't even think of ending the mission right now. If you do, I'll go on without you. He smirked at him and whispered in his ear, you know you can't stop me. Kakashi shivered. But what about you Naruto? We have to fix your problem. Naruto snickered, what problem? I don't know what you're talking about. Okay then. Fine, we continue. Sakura pouted, she didn't want to go on. If they ran into anyone else they would be done for. And what if the Kyuubi came back? Wait, didn't Kakashi say that Naruto knew something about it? Sasuke smirked. This was perfect. He would get more chances to strengthen himself. He would defeat that man. But what about Kyuubi? Not even Itachi could go up against that thing. Didn't Naruto know something about it? Hey Naruto, came two voices at the same time. Naruto turned to them after finishing a jutsu that replaced his cloths. He was now wearing black pants and a dark green shirt. Over them he wore the cloak that he had gotten from the alchemists. Yeah. Sasuke beat Sakura this time, slowly approaching Naruto, what do you know about Kyuubi? What if Naruto permanently opens the 8 Celestial Gates Chunin exam? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.